live. So it should be coming up. We all want to head there. One sec here.
I haven't seen the ad.
So it should be. Okay. Got the echo intro going. Not too bad today. A little bit better. I caught it a little quicker.
Who said that in your last stream? They said, "Oh, Jake with the patented echo intro."
Making the good comments. So I just have to set up one or two things. Just to start, if you guys can just introduce yourselves quickly. It can be very quick because I'm pretty sure every single person here probably knows you guys. But just talk a little bit about your channels, a little bit about your history. Why don't you go first, Echo, and then or Joe, and then Poke Knowledge can go after. That's all right with you. By then, I will have what I need to have finished. We can get into it.
Yeah, cool. So my channel's Echo Based Collectibles. My name's Joe. I played and judged the trading card game at a high level for a very long time, since its inception up through to about 2012, where I made a small hiatus exodus for personal family reasons and stuff. AKA I got married. So I got back in about a year and a half ago when I sat down and looked at my vast collection that I've amassed over the years. And my intention was, I came back right when Logan Paul did his thing, but I had no idea what was actually going on. And when I actually sat down to look at my collection, I was like, wow, it's quite more valuable than I left it. And the more I stood around and looked at it, I was like, I can't part with these cards because I'm never going to get half of them back. Like, I could never get these back. And the more I looked at my stuff, I fell in love with it again. And I intend to, once in-person play opens back up, I intend to dive back into running my leagues, judging tournaments, competing again, and as well as I collect. I'm a huge collector. I collect high-end cards. I collect pretty much everything. I've always liked the rarer stuff. So that's kind of my background. That's kind of where my knowledge comes from. I have like a nice middle era that I haven't been around, which a lot of you guys have. So it's kind of like, I like looking at the different current channels, perspectives of the market, because a lot of you guys came in when I was out of it. So like when I got back into it, I started subscribing to everyone's channels and like absorbed all that black and white XY era sort of stuff. And what basically what has transpired since I left up until now. And I think I got a pretty good idea now after interacting with a bunch of people of what's going on. And I'm excited to be back with Pokemon again. It's so much fun. I'm a lot of friends in this game.
Awesome, man.
So I'm Poke Knowledge. I have a YouTube channel, Poke Knowledge Cards. If you guys aren't subscribed, hopefully Jake will put a link to that in the description of this video after we're done. But pretty much for me, I love anything Pokemon TCG, but I really love the history of Pokemon, and I really like to go dive into the history of cards and try to pull back layers of areas that maybe I wasn't even there for. So I grew up like every other kid, 1999, collecting Pokemon cards, but I really got out like right after Fossil, a little bit of Team Rocket, but not enough. And I didn't even know when I really got out until I went back and looked at my cards. But the areas that I really like are the early e-reader sets. So Expedition, Aquapolis, Skyridge, but then I really like a lot of Nintendo sets, and I really like looking at Gold Star sets, stuff like that, but I don't like looking at actually the Gold Stars. I like to really pull back the layers of sets, look for things that I think are undervalued, things that I think the market will eventually move to. But other than that, I just like to talk financials of Pokemon, speculation of Pokemon, manipulation of Pokemon, you name it. Honestly, I just like to talk Pokemon. That's what it boils down to.
Nice. So tonight, I thought, as the title of the video says, that we'd start just by giving our opinions on where we think the market is going to move. And obviously these are just opinions, and we can nothing is binding, and we can just kind of hang out and share our thoughts on that. I thought we'd start also, people in the chat, if you guys want to share some of your opinions, ask us questions, anything about that, we're going to start there, and then we're just going to, I'm sure, go on plenty of tangents as we usually do here, and just kind of have a fun conversation with the three of us. And then also, as the time moves on, we'll definitely do some more interacting with the chat and answering questions and picking topics that we like. So feel free to leave one there. So do either of you guys want to start with just sort of that broad question?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start it off from where I kind of see the market, where it came from, where it went to. So I think what we saw with the Pokemon market, especially 2020, 2021, we saw a very developed market. So in 2017, 2018, everyone says, well, Pokemon was at this real low, but no, actually the Pokemon market was really well developed. And the people that were truly buying, truly collecting at this time, because they made it through 2016, that like hype period, and they stuck around and they really had a deep knowledge. So we went from the market being, very established, very well known. We got to a point where everybody almost had exactly the same opinions when it came to cards, came to sets. And then right at 2020, like a train came through, bam, the market totally morphed from a very well-established market that we saw in 2017, 2018, and it then shift back to like a new collector's market, something most of us had actually never seen. Because even when we got back into the hobby, didn't matter if you got back into the hobby a decade ago, that market was already established a decade ago, and it was just moving along the lines that it was going in say 2012, 2013. But now we had to like really try to quickly adapt in 2020. And, I keep telling people, I'm like, yes, 2016 was crazy for Pokemon, but it really wasn't the same. And some people say it was, but the hype was just different. Like, I never really remember like going to the store and really not being able to pick up anything. But 2020, 2021 changed that for, the big difference. But where I see the market moving now in the future is, so we went from a well-established market to this brand new market with everybody coming in with hype, and something too that we hadn't seen in a while, people coming in with money and not caring how they spent it, where they spent it on. They weren't doing the research. They didn't care about historical prices, anything like that. It was just like they saw literally shiny cardboard and they wanted to buy it. So now where I think the market is going to start to go to is a lot of those newer collectors who bought at outrageously high, like secondary market prices, really got caught up in the FOMO, stuff like that. A lot of those people will probably exit the hobby, which I think for the overall longevity and the health of Pokemon, I think that's a great thing, because really you need those like people to leave, because they're the ones making it hard on everyone when you're going out and jacking up the price of Evolving Skies booster boxes to $170. Like, that's not good for the health in the long term. But the huge but is where we're going to see the hobby move in the future, is we're now going to go back to a more educated market. But I think the market has now shifted really hard, and that a lot of that education is definitely more modern, where you'd always have your Wizard of the Coast collectors, your e-readers, your very few Diamond and Pearl guys, your couple guys holding on by the strings of Heart Gold, Soul Silver. They were few and far between. Now we're going to start to see this market move forward with a very new type of collector. And I think a lot of people are really going to have to do a lot to adapt and change and keep up with the new ebb and flows. So that's just my thought on the future, is just that new collecting. We're going to go back to more like a 2018 timeline.
What do you think, Echo?
I agree with a lot of that. So I've always looked at Pokemon as a whole, as a very cyclical hobby, that unlike a lot of other collectors and collection based hobbies, Pokemon is largely driven by its player base, because everybody forgets that this is, at the end of the day, this is a collectible card game. And unlike other collectible card games, namely Magic, which is the arguably the second largest collectible card game. Pokemon has a lot going for it that Magic doesn't. There's a lot of media tie-in. The Pokemon franchise is huge. It has a much larger reach than Magic does. And at the end of the day, Pokemon sales historically for modern, because I come from a time when there was no such thing as modern, it was just Pokemon. But the latest sets, we'll say, are always the driving force behind sales behind those sets has always been kids. Kids, asking their mom in Target for a pack of cards on the way out. That's where, and that's what I think everyone forgets about this game is this collector's, this hobby of ours, is that Nintendo targets this, Pokemon Company International targets this at kids. At the end of the day, that's changing some recently with a lot of there have been some items that have been targeting now towards adults. They realize that being a cyclical hobby, us as were once kids are now adults, and we are either still in this hobby or coming back into it. So they are targeting us more. But if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say it's still 70% kids that purchase majority of the products out there. So building with that off of what Knowledge said, yes, I think a lot of what happened in the last couple of years hurts this game in the long run. When kids can't go into Target and buy cards, they lose interest. They might want them, but kids psyche and their interests change, and media is always fighting for their consumers' attention. So if kids can't find Pokemon on the shelves, they're going to go to the next thing. They're going to go back home and play Fortnite. They're going to do whatever. They're going to lose interest. So 2020 being what it was, bringing in all the new money from the social media and the outreach that our hobby garnered over the last year and a half, via Logan Paul, via a lot of, Katy Perry being in the news, a lot of reach that Pokemon had. There was a lot of news stories about Pokemon selling out. It was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It like fed itself. The more people heard about how much money they could make in Pokemon, the more people gravitated towards Pokemon. And I think that's where a lot of the big money players came in, a lot of them being sports card collectors. When there becomes record sales for certain cards in the $250,000 range, that grabs people's attention that have money, that no idea what Pokemon even was, but they're always looking to invest in the latest thing. So they're like, oh, here's this Pokemon thing. It's making a ton of money. Let me do like 30 minutes of research. I don't know what I'm doing, but let me just dump $100,000 and then just it's got to make money. Everybody's talking about it. Let me just buy. And the more that fed itself, that turned into people just wanting to buy everything, which led to
Echo. Did you think that was just Shadowless first edition base where everybody was just like buy, or did you really think it was more across the board?
That's really hard to I think it was a gradual, almost like in a real-time strategy game, how you start with a dark map and then as it slowly starts to like peel itself away and spread into other areas. I think that it started with the stuff that everyone knew. And everyone heard, first edition, you go with the demon, first edition Charizard, PSA 10 Charizard. And then when you couldn't buy any of those, people were like, well, what's the next thing that, Blastoise. Okay, well, what's the next thing? The more that stuff got gobbled up and was less to procure, I think people started to reach and started to find more and more stuff. In a law of diminishing returns, the more like a curve, the more you outreached further and further into the hobby, the less prices drove up. I mean, it was, I would say, relative, and maybe, so like, let's say, maybe if we went up across the board 20%, yeah, sure, other first edition cards went up as well, but they're not going to hit that extreme amount that like the Charizards are going to hit. That's
Oh,
not, in my opinion, that's not where like the sports card guys were targeting. They started to try and find other things to purchase just to make investments. But once they started to realize that like not as many people, Pokemon has always kind of been a, I wouldn't say a poor man's hobby, but it's a blue collar hobby. There hasn't historically been.
It's an emergent hobby.
It is an emerging hobby, and the more people of our generation that grew up with it, the more we come into money, the more money will come into the hobby. But the hobby has historically been a average Joe hobby. Cards have not been all that expensive historically. There has not been enough money into the hobby, so that when these big sharks leave, you're going to go back to exactly what you said. It's going to go back to where it was prior to this, which I think is a fantastic thing, because the fact
with 50 to 100% more people than we were, though, that's the big caveat. Like, we're going to have a lot of people leave, but a lot are going to stay, and they're going to be.
But do you think that those 50 to 100% more people are big sharks, or are they average people that just like people that
it's always the same. You always have your big sharks, and then you always got your little guys. I think it's
sure
just, you're going to have a little bit of everybody, and you're going to see overall pressure in different areas of the market. Like,
yeah, I could see that. Obviously the more outreach. Yeah. So yeah, I think we will be up from where we were a year ago. I don't think we're going to go backwards. I really don't. I don't think we're going to go less than we were a year ago, I'll say.
No. We're not even close to that.
Right.
Like, I don't care what anyone says. We're not even close. Like, sure, if you look at like individual cards, like, yeah, maybe you can see like an example here or there, but the overall market for
sure.
Well, the only stuff I'm buying cheaper now than I actually bought a few years ago is Hidden Fates. Singles. It's the only thing that is
singles, yeah. Single market's going.
And graded cards. And so that's part of why I'm targeting some of those. But the only thing that is actually cheaper now that existed then and was being sold. And part of that is because Hidden Fates was, and Shiny GX too, was such a big hit. And, I remember buying those PSA 10 Shiny GX slabs, the baby shinies, for $25. Right now I'm getting them for $19, $21. It's not much.
You get them for the cost of grading soon, Jake.
But it's very similar. And so I think that's sort of one interesting data point about where we're at. But other than that, anything that's even remotely high end and is any sort of vintageness and isn't, a common or uncommon, and even those have considerably gone up and maintain their value from Wizards of the Coast era. Anything that isn't that is still, most things are still up 5x to 10x in some places. And, from where it was in 2019, 2020, I think, there's a lot you guys said that I agree with. I think that there's a lot of unknowns. So I think there's a lot of theories and hypothesis about, just as you were saying, Echo, like, how is this going to affect the kids? Are the kids going to be turned off? Or is this generation going to be less into it? Counter argument would be they're going to be more into it, because they remember that mania and they couldn't get the product, and there was that excitement, and they were still watching all the YouTube channels and all their favorite influencers. And, there's that hype of, like, we as kids, there weren't 200, 300, 400, $500,000 cards you could pull out of a pack. The kids today,
$100 Charizard, that was it.
That's true.
$15,000 collections. I mean, how cool would that have felt as a kid? I mean, I freaking loved Pokemon, and it was zero about the money. Can you imagine you loving Pokemon and having a $1,000 collection and being the badass? Kind of walking
around the schoolyard, Jake.
I think but I also think that Echo's point, there's also a lot of entertainment now, and video games are insane. And there weren't as much competing for my attention, to be completely honest, when as there is now, in terms of these video games are just much, much better. So I feel I want to make an argument or put something out there that is very bullish, just for the sake. So I think that it's highly possible that we have seen absolutely nothing yet. And in most of the high end market and even into the middle market, and that 10 to 20 years, 5, 10 to 20 years from now, somewhere in there, you're going to see, lots and lots of set cards over $50,000, lots of them. And you're going to see a few set cards get cover with over the 500,000 to $1 million mark. And you're going to see trophy cards going for multiple millions of dollars. And I base this off of how tiny Pokemon is compared to sports right now. And a concept or idea that non-sports cards and pop culture collectibles in general are starting to get pushed. First of all, people love this stuff innately. Like, people love this stuff as much as they love sports. People love Harry Potter and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Pokemon and all these types of things, in my opinion, as much and just as much as they love basketball and football and soccer. And you're going to have certain kids and certain people who they love the sports more. You're going to have other kids who love these things more. But I think both are extremely prevalent. But I don't think there was a fleshed out, built up market for this non-sports card stuff forever. And I think that over the next 20 years, you're going to have PSA, you're going to have all these grading companies, you're going to have all these auction houses that are going to build all of that out so that Pokemon cards catch up a little bit to sports. And I want to throw out just some numbers for people. There are, of Luka Doncic rookie cards, okay? There's over $1 billion of Luka Doncic rookie cards. Just Luka rookie cards. Okay, so, and there's a bunch of players, and there's just one modern player in basketball. Okay, so, I was thinking about it and going through the different sets and going through how much that they were selling for graded and thinking about it's like tens of thousands of times bigger than Pokemon is right now when you think about the prices and you look at these types of things. And when I see that and when I think about that, the amount that it could actually grow into that, like my 50,000, 100,000 million could be conservative. Now, I do think sports has come back a lot and will come back a lot more, but you're still seeing a Luka Doncic rookie, at a 99 selling for $700,000. And now I think that's absolutely ludicrous and insane why someone would pay something like that for some card. But I was telling you guys before, and then I'll let you respond. I bought a card that there's 6 of in the world for $6,000, yesterday. So there are these cards that are so much rarer than that, in my opinion, much more important to the Pokemon hobby and historic to the Pokemon hobby than a Luka Doncic rookie card. We have no idea how good Luka is going to be. Even if he's a top 20 player of all time, there's still thousands and thousands of cards of those other guys who are GOATs and who are, and now he might end up being a top 5 player of all time. And, those numbers might end up making sense. But so I want to throw all of that out. And what do you guys, when you think of it in that context, do you think those trajectories are possible? And we can also talk about very negative possibilities, because there are also very negative possibilities too. That's just one possible trajectory.
So Jake, what I think that could have like a strong argument to it on the positive, because when you do compare Pokemon to sports card, Pokemon as a hobby, we're still very young, like I said earlier. So when you think about the age demographic that is buying Pokemon right now, let's just say for the majority of it, it's between 26 to 36, maybe, like a little bit of outliers on each way. But when you think about the modern or baseball card market in the 90s, think about when those people were 36 in the 90s, they grew up in the 60s. And, sure, you had the 52 Mickey Mantle rookie, but think about people started collecting baseball cards in the 60s, grew up, started coming into their income earning years of their 30s. They started buying up a lot of that market, making that 90 junk wax era really strong. But that generation was still early into their income earning lives. Like when you think about income earning, you think about, you're going to college, then you start establishing yourself in your 20s. In your 30s, you start really working your way up the corporate ladder. Your position's changing a little bit faster than your salary. but like 40, 50 to retirement, those are your highest income earning years. Like hopefully you're making more at 55 than you were at 25. So then when you look at what the sports card market is doing on that real high end, it's all those 55-year-olds who were buying in the 90s when they were our age, you know, bumping up. So if you wanted to say like maybe that could be an argument for the positivity of Pokemon, I could definitely see that as being a realistic argument. And if you're just comparing it to the sports card market, because I think Pokemon, and Jake, I'm the same way as you. I'm extremely bullish when it comes to Pokemon, almost, and I'll be the first to admit I'm almost so bullish to a fault. Sometimes even I have to pull myself back and say, okay, maybe I'm a little too exuberant, but I also, and I'm sure you were, and I'm sure Echo were too. Echo got back in, but we got very spoiled in 2020. You could say everything you want about like invest in or everything, but we were spoiled. We were the ones that were spoiled in 2020 because we got to sell some cards at prices that even in our wildest dreams, we didn't expect, you know? So
That's true.
I was telling my family I was going to be a millionaire on Pokemon, so I do have to myself some of my investing, but I didn't think it was going to be that fast, and I didn't expect, and the way it happened was very disconcerting because it was very it was very stupid. And we can get
you got to navigate it though. That was the best part. It was easy to navigate. Everyone says it was hard, but it was easy actually, because we were like, this doesn't make any sense.
For us though, I second Jake's sentiments. I felt bad for a lot. When I started to get back into this and I saw some of what was going on, and my first reaction was, no, really? Like, really? And the more I watched, the more I was like, oh hell, these people are getting taken.
It's watching a car crash. You can't turn around.
And I'm like, oh my God, guys, no, please don't buy any more evolutions at that price, please.
So for me, it had to do with the thinking involved. And what I would always tell people is that it's not the prices that are necessarily concerning me to that extent. And what I would say is like the prices could be anything and could be much higher. Now, when some prices started getting really high, I started getting concerned. Something like evolutions, because of how much product there was out there, I started getting concerned about like how deep is the money in this hobby, filled with pretty young people, filled with mostly middle class and lower socioeconomic type people. You know, where is all this money coming from, and how and can it really go to 1,500 now or 2,000 now, like people were saying, right? Like that's going to require, you know, $1 billion, right? Like it's really going to require significant capital just mathematically to make something like that happen. And I was sort of watching the boxes being sold and was amazed really by how much money was being put in. But for me, it was the thinking that a lot of people had of like, it's a guarantee going to go up to 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, and all just the bullshit and the numbers being thrown out. And, you know, I'm not, you know, I would have some people on the channel, we'd have conversations and they would say like, you know, people who were like really experts, you know, in this stuff and been here a long time and say, it's definitely going higher. And I would say, why? Like what? Like to me, the signs point down because we've had all of this weird sort of additional spending based on the stimulus, based on people being at home, based on people not spending on other areas of their life, based on the unemployment checks that they were receiving, not spending money on vacations, food. All of the signs pointed that there was, and this is the stock, you know, person in me, the investor in me, the thinking part of me that says, okay, actually, all of that is built into this price and is artificially higher than it will be once the scenario changes. And so it's going to take more and more and more people and more interest to continue, not just hold the prices where they are at, yet alone double or triple again, right. Which is what people were expecting. And frankly, right, a lot of these people only bought the items because they were looking to double or triple their money and to make money. And when that started happening more and more, it creates a house of cards on the prices where collectors and people who are willing to hold the items for a long time are no longer owning the items.
Yeah.
When my friends and when I'm selling, when someone as bullish as me is selling, like to me, that's like personally, that is danger. That means is because I sold some good items this year that I had zero plan on selling.
Same.
But from my
Things I'll
perspective,
never get back too.
so irrationally high just for now. Now, I don't know, I think a limited base is tough. I think there are some things that there's just a lot of supply. It's going to take a really long time. It's going to be really hard for those prices to ladder up. But I think other things could quickly disappear with a little bit of money, a little bit of bullishness, and you could see prices quickly ladder. I wouldn't be surprised if 1 to 2 years, there's lots of things that double or triple in value again, back and reach new equilibriums in certain points. So I'm going to see. Who knows?
What I would really like to see though, Jake, to kind of mention what you said is I would like to see, because all these prices that people bought at these really high prices, we're just assuming that they're going to all dump their product or dump their cards at lower prices as prices begin to retrace. But I would be curious if these people that bought in at the inflated prices don't sell. So as we're buying on the way down, eventually those cards, because obviously we're not buying anything with the expectation to lose money, and we're probably buying a lot of stuff on what we consider the low end to make it back to those prices they bought at. I'm wondering if they're going to artificially keep the prices stronger because they're just not selling at a loss, or they're just going to like sell everything at a loss and crush the market, but there'll be people there to buy it up too. So
a couple points.
Market, sorry, Echo. Let me just say one thing and then I'll get to you. So
Sure.
Just to respond to that. So part of a normal market, is there going to be a certain percentage of people who don't have interest in holding items and are interested in just flipping them and selling them. So that is always going to be built in and I wouldn't say that's unnatural. That's normal and natural. That's actually a healthy market that prices might move up and people are interested. There's always going to be that element. The point is like what percentage of the hobby is a stable point to have that going on? Like if only flip, like when I'm talking to all my friends who are huge buyers and are the richest people in this hobby, mostly, or, certainly the top 10%, and they're looking at all these prices and have the most education history, and they say they're stupid, I would never buy at any of these, and I'm actively selling. That's dangerous. That means that most of the people who are buying this are new and maybe collectors, but in a lot of cases, I think that they were, these flippers from the sports card world and other places. And that's when you have a huge portion of that, that's dangerous. But to have like the people who are now saying, I'm just going to hold, I don't think they're going to sell. Like, I think that those types of things help establish price points. And I think people like me and other people over time will start buying those and we'll start
that's what I was saying though.
Yeah. Go ahead, Echo.
Yeah.
A couple things. One of the points you made a minute ago, Jake, about the reason people procured so much this year being with the incentive of flipping and reselling. I think some of it too was FOMO. I think a lot of people bought because of the irrational exuberance, and they're like, oh shit, I got to get in on this. I got to get in. They had no intention on flipping it. They had intentions on them being investments. But then I think some of those people are going to back out once they don't have the fortitude to hold on to it for the next 10 years. So I am one of those people. I've heard a lot of your discussions about, the people that just say, well, everything's going to go up. It's all going to go up. It's just a matter of time. I think everything will go up over time, but that time, when I say that, I mean 15 years, 20 years. I think, of course, I think chilling range is not going to be $72 a box 20 years from now. But I just don't think that a lot of people understood. And I think that a lot of this conversation, a lot of conversations, people like to say the hobby, Pokemon, they lump it all together, everything. Like when we talk, we're not being specific enough about particular items, because yes, there's definitely certain things that you're better off putting your money in, just like there is in stocks. There's mutual funds, stocks, bonds, short-term, long-term. It's equivalent in Pokemon. There's certain things, depending on what you want to do with your collection goals and your financial goals and all of that should dictate what you want to buy and why you want to buy it. Like like I saw your video where you bought all the baby shinies. Like, sure, they're not going to go to $20 tomorrow, and anybody who told you anything else is an asshole and should be shamed for saying such a thing. But I sure think 20 years from now, I agree with you. As soon as you said that the other day, I went on TCG Player and I was like, oh my God, they are $1 a piece. Like, that's awesome because yeah, I think 20 years from now, those baby shinies are going to be sought after and they're going to go up in value. The same thing for a sealed box of Chilling Reigns. So a lot of these people that bought in the highs, now that a lot of people are exiting the hobby, a lot of these people are looking to sell because they don't want to hold it because they can't, because a lot of the money that came in was stimulus check money, was your average person's money that they saw all of this. They had FOMO. They wanted to get in on something while they could because they got told that there's not going to be any more Wizards of the Coast. It's going away. Got to get it right now, and now's your chance because it's all going to go to the moon. Yeah, but you had like everybody just bought everything over the last year because that's what everyone told them to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with buying a first edition card, a first edition Jungle Hollow for an all-time high in 2020. I don't think you were silly for doing that because I think 20 years from now that card will still be up. And if you wanted to go buy and sit on 6 cases of Battle Styles right now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But just know that I don't think it's not going to be a $30,000 box of cards. It might be a $500 or $600 or $700 box of cards in 10 years, around that range.
I think my thing is that now is the time to buy.
I would agree.
100% agree.
My whole channel, I've been like, I haven't bought any Pokemon. What I mean? Like I practice what I say. I tell my honest opinions, whether they're right or wrong, right? So, now there's so many good buying options that you should be thoughtful, and you also need to understand that there are a lot of potential scenarios and there's so many unknowns and we don't know how long it's going to take. And we also don't know if Pokemon's going to survive this. We can't sit here and guarantee that Pokemon's going to be going in 10 years, in 15 years.
That's true. I'll guarantee 10 years, Jake.
Hold on. I was around at a time when we thought Pokemon was going. There was a huge fear when Wizards of the Coast was on its way out, Nintendo was on its way in, that this game was dead.
And they had that lawsuit in 2003 too, but that just got swept under the rug.
When you are investing in a pop culture collectible that is based on people's demand or attention and people liking the thing, it's not like I can pretty much guarantee we're going to need food, because unless they may design some pills for us. And in 50 years from now, Coca-Cola might be dead because we're getting all of our supplements in a food pill. I mean, there's a million, and this is the investor in me when we talk about moats, when we talk about financial moats or competitive advantage, you can get crazy and come up with scenarios for why things aren't going to be valuable or wanted. But with Pokemon or with something like a pop culture collectible, you just don't know how much the kids are going to like it, how engaged they're going to be. That being said, I'm extremely bullish on it, and I'm placing heavy bets on it. But I also have heavy bets in the stock market and other places, and I'm working to make as much money in income as much as I possibly can to offset any investment issues. I can hold my investments, right? For me, I think of the worst case scenario, and I always have those things in mind. But I place my bets on what I really think is actually going to happen.
So that would be the best advice I could give to anybody in our hobby is keep this a hobby. Do not put all your eggs in this basket.
Yeah.
And exactly what Jake just said.
Yeah. But like you were saying, Jake, I understand what you're saying. Like there is a chance Pokemon will be around in 10 years now. I kind of I love looking at look at a huge investor like Warren Buffett. He buys companies that he believes in. And you mentioned Coca-Cola, 50 years from now, maybe Coca-Cola is gone. But when you think about how Warren Buffett made a lot of money for Berkshire Hathaway, it was buying a lot of Coca-Cola. But then I love the story that he talks about of buying Wrigley's chewing gum and he bought it for like 1.3 billion. And yeah, that's a lot of packs of gum, but he bought it because he said you can go into any gas station in any state, in any country. You can go into any grocery store and there's going to be a pack of Wrigley's chewing gum on the shelves. And he's like, yeah, those aren't flashy, but Coca-Cola isn't going away. Like, it's crazy in other countries, even if like whatever is dwindling in America. Same thing with chewing gum. It's going to always be a thing. And I think that way when I like invest in the long term. And that's how I think of Pokemon. I'm like, okay, do I see Pokemon being a weak IP in 10 years from now?
No.
Like it's going to go to zero. There's just no scenario in my head I could play that out like. But I think what we do a lot is, you know, like Echo brought up a good point. He's like, do I see Chill and Rain booster boxes in 15 years, 20 years being valuable? I'm like, yeah, that's a great thought. But I think what we do sometimes is we go back and we think about like the hype of 99, and the hype of 99 was different. And the reason why it was different is because the age group, they didn't stop liking Pokemon. They grew out of Pokemon. They just went from being fifth graders to going to middle school and stuff. And they kind of grew out of Pokemon and then high school and college, stuff like that. But now we're at the age where now we could tell our friends like, yeah, I like Pokemon. And if you have a problem with that, like, I don't care, because, you know, like, I'm not trying to impress anyone. So
14,
I think that is a difference.
17, 18 can watch this stream.
True.
And can see adult men and, you know, women and people who are interested in this stuff. It's the Scott, like when I hear like Sean from Reserved Investments, okay, talk kind of critically, he's very critical and negative about just like pop culture collectibles and investing in this type of stuff. And, you know, he makes a lot of reasonable points, things that I really take into account. What I think he misses is that we are in the age of social media. We are in the age of pop culture collectibles mixed with social media. In some sense, like the older, like some pop culture collectibles are things that are no longer popular. You know, if we want to talk about different toys, trains, you know, markets that were once really hot. What does the amount of money that a Pokemon has the amount of money that the PSA company, that all of these companies have, make the competitive advantage they have over everything else, you know, over all other collectibles, really, in a lot of ways, outside of like the fine art market is the only thing that I, you know, and now books and these other types of things I think they're all sort of merging and becoming more involved in this in video games. But the competitive advantage, combining the money and the resources that these places have with social media and the way that they can spread that out and touch every child's life and put this in front of every single human being easily over and over and over again. And their financial and monetary incentive to do that has never been a thing that's happened in human history for any pop culture for collectible. Lionel Train there were not YouTubers coming out and talking about Lionel Trains and showing their Lionel Trains. There were not massive groups being able to come online and talk to 1,000 other adults. These were hobbies that had to happen alone and solo in many cases for many years. And so I think that you're underestimating. I think some of that stuff is an underestimation of the potential when you combine these things together of brands like Pokemon being 100-year, 200-year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
Cross-generational, big time.
I agree with that 100%. And to tie this back into sports for a second, I forget, I think it was Jake touched on this a few minutes ago. Pokemon is not at the level sports is right now. In order for us to see, like we keep talking about growth and what it would take to get to that level, let's just take the cards out of the equation for a second. There are no Pokemon cards. There are no sports cards. You know how much money the NFL pumps into, how much money there is in sports that has nothing to do with cards? How much players' salaries are, how much NFL teams make, how much baseball teams make. There is so much money in the intellectual property of sports, and it's such a fundamental foundation of American culture. College athletes, we ingrain this stuff into our kids' heads at the age of 8, 6, 5 to play sports. There's no question. Like there's no, it doesn't take a genius to draw a 1-to-1 on that when we're bombarding our society with the institution of athletics and sports, that of course it's going to transcend into a collectible card market.
Yep.
I would say that in the nerd or pop culture segment of an equivalent to that, I can't think of another one as big as Pokemon. The amount of money that the Pokemon Company International has between the movies, the video games, the TV show, it's the merchandising that has nothing to do with the card game. It's just all over the place. I would say, as long as you can look at the stock ticker for Pokemon and it's going up, the card game's going to go up, and it's going to continue to do that. Now, the only caveat I would say to that is Pokemon has always been on the rise. I don't think there's been a single year where they've reported a profit loss. But even with all that, I was there and I talked to the higher ups in Pokemon, and they considered shutting down the card game segment of this in America. They considered ceasing organized play in America. If organized play stops and it's a card game, guys. Yeah, they might still sell the cards, but if there's nowhere to play them, there's going to be a downswing.
It's a big loss. If that ever happened, it would be a massive loss for sure.
It would.
Hey Jake, I just want to give a shout out. I just sent you a message on Instagram, but it looked like Rudy from Alpha Investments was in the chat, so that's pretty cool that he stopped by.
That's pretty cool.
Nice. Hey, Rudy.
Mason's here too, as
Hey,
always.
I see a lot of familiar names in the chat. I appreciate all you guys stopping by.
Basic.
But,
yeah, I think that with investment, right, and this is how I talk to people about this stuff, that investment, obviously, it's common sense, but it's inherently risk. Okay. But you can get, when you make a decision, you have to, if you don't invest your money anywhere, you become a person who puts cash into your mattress. Okay. And I think that that's an option. And I think that when we talk more broadly about investments, and I know before we went on Knowledge, you mentioned maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, but when we talk broadly about your different investment options, they're going to range from, much safer, and again, for a variety of reasons, right? They're going to be safer maybe because they're backed by the United States government, and the odds of the United States government folding compared to the odds of Coca-Cola folding compared to the odds of Pokemon cards folding may all have different odds, okay, of folding, or of just going down or not going up, or however you want to put it. Okay. So I think it's completely reasonable to be like, this is too much risk. I don't feel comfortable using the word investing on cardboard. And I think people who have that sort of sentiment, it's sort of reasonable to some extent. But when we actually define what the word investment is, it just means that we're buying something and we're hoping it goes up later. And whether we decide to hold it or sell it, it's an asset. It's part of our wealth, as we define the term wealth, including the assets that we have. And I do think that we shouldn't shy. I think that there's a lot of stigma around the word investment, and there's been so much kind of poor, kind of gross, kind of manipulative stuff and icky stuff that has kind of tainted it, instead of like it being like a really smart thing that you should be doing as a human being. And it's perfectly also smart to be thinking about collectibles as investments if you want to buy them or look into them and be interested in that sort of thing.
Jake, what you're saying is right, but you got to think, and I think you're alluding to it, is that the people that are saying it's a bad investment, the reason they're saying that is because they don't have the rest of their shit together. Like the fact that we have to come on every time on our channels and say, you should, hit your company match 401k. If you want to do it, go the max, do the 18.5 or whatever. If you want to do your IRA and you make too much money, do a backdoor IRA. If you have a pension plan, do a pension plan. If like if you want an annuity for that route, even though I don't suggest it for our age group, like go ahead, do that. If you want to do stocks, do stocks. If you want to do crypto, like we have to do that every time. But that's because the people saying this is not a good investment shouldn't be investing it yet, because I don't think they're ready. And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to. But you're like, it's sometimes like we have to be too nice to these people. It's like, yeah, Pokemon should not be where all your money is. Next,
no
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everyone can make. So this is what I truly believe. I'm just gonna, I think tonight we're doing a lot of like, I'm so careful with my words because I know that I worry that people are gonna, follow them to the T. It's just part of being on these things. But my honest opinion is that there is no correct percentage of what you should have in Pokemon. It should be based on your knowledge. If you have deep knowledge of the markets, if you've been doing it a long time, if you have a lot of connections in the area, okay, with other people, if you have a bunch of different exit strategies and you're sort of aware of all of the different ways that you can sell and all of the different risk factors and the various risk factors in your collectibles portfolio, let's say, you have all of those things, okay? You also have really good income, okay? You're young, I'm going to put in there. You have really good income from things that have nothing to do with collectibles. This is a big one because I think a lot of people might have really good income, but it's coming mostly from collectibles, which if in a downturn, both your investments and your ability to like flip may disappear. And that's very dangerous for people. But let's say you have a lot of cash coming in, right? You have a high-paying career, high-paying job, and so you can quickly replenish cashes. So it's okay if you lose a lot of your investments or they go down, or you can afford to hold them. If you were in that situation, like it to me, and you had 60%, 70%, 80% of your net worth in Pokemon, something like that, I think it's highly risky. I think it's, but I'm definitely not going to call you a fool, and this is just my personal opinion. And, if you really know what you're doing, but again, I don't want to talk about someone like Rudy. I know he was here before. Like, I don't know how much money Rudy has in real estate. He talks about it, right? How much cash Rudy has. It's obviously a lot, he strikes me as someone, a little bit that he's always kind of pushing the envelope, very ambitious. I have a feeling that he is not a man who keeps that much cash. And I could be completely wrong with that. I probably shouldn't say what someone random does, but I have a feeling that he's someone who's like, he's big on reinvesting. He's always looking for opportunity, always trying to plow it into things that are going to grow and grow and grow. But in order to take all of that risk, which he's able to do, and there's a lot of risk he takes, he has so many different modes of income, and he makes so much money in cash from the Patreon. He has a lot of real estate. He has, he probably has a really nice nest egg, and he probably has $30 million right now in collectibles and in all sorts of different things that even if it, crashed down to 5 million, like he'd still $5 million. And so he is very different than a person at the far end leveraged on $100,000 of credit card debt, but probably more common, just a person who's like young, trying to hustle, trying to get a side hobby, trying to make some money, trying to build a nest egg so that you can become Rudy, so that you can take those bigger risks and gambles. And I think if you're pushing it and you're pushing it that 80% all the time, I'm not going to call you an idiot. You might be a really smart guy. For me, it would depend. If I would have to talk to the person and I'd have to see how savvy I thought they were. Again, this is my personal opinion, whether or not I would say you're being hugely foolish, or like you're willing to take the risk, you understand the risk, and I hope it works out for you. I know I went on quite a bit of.
No, it's all great points.
That was great, Jake. And what you said too, which really like stuck with me, is you're right. Like if people do want to, I would personally never recommend somebody like tying up that much money in Pokemon, but I think you brought up a good point. It's about navigating too. Like, can you navigate this market? And when it, like Rudy, ignoring all his other investments that I don't even know what he has, property or, whatever investments or whatever he has. Let's just ignore everything and just say Magic and Pokemon and trading card games in general. He can navigate that market, but Rudy also has the ability to manipulate the market, whether he wants to admit it or not. But when it comes to on the lower end, it's about just navigating the market, because I'm a strong believer is I don't care if the market's at the highest of highs or the lowest of lows. I always believe there's money to be made, but one of the questions I see people ask more than any other question is they always ask about, how do I sell this? And I always get nervous and I'm like, why do you own that? Like I always, well, they'll show me some crazy heavy hitter card that could be, like sometimes 5 figures. And I'm like, why do you own that if you don't know how to sell that? Like, that's what makes me nervous. Like, any card at any point, you should have the ability to know how to liquidate it. And even if you can't get top of the market because you didn't hit the peak of peaks, but hopefully you can liquidate that card in a way that you make money. Like, that stuff is what makes me more nervous than any of the financial advice stuff,
I would definitely agree. I think there's a lot of people that are chasing things that they don't have any business chasing. But can you blame them? I mean, that's the point of collecting. There just so happens to be a price tag associated with these items. There are definitely people in this hobby that want them because they're cool and because they're rare and because they want to own something that they've always wanted to own. They just happen to be as valuable as they are now. So I can't, there's your people that are in this just for investing. And I don't know if I connect with those people as much as the people who are also investing, but also really enjoy what they have. Like, there are cards I still want that are so much money that I am working towards buying, that if they lost 20 or 30%, I wouldn't care. I just want the damn card in my hand. I've wanted it.
Echo, if you ever said that there still weren't cards you were looking for, if you ever said that, that would be the point I would tell you to leave the hobby. If you ever told me there's no cards I'm looking for anymore, because you should always have something you're going after. Whether
Pratt pretty much just said that on his latest Patreon. Somebody asked him like, is there anything you're actually collecting? And he's like, yeah, no, not really. I mean, other than binders I've already done. Like, he's like, I've already touched everything I've ever wanted to touch.
Yeah.
Like, but yes, for 99.9% of us, that's not the case. But I think it's difficult because the people that watch this channel and that watch a lot of the channels like ours, it's the 10% of our hobby. I think there's a vast majority of this hobby that doesn't care about the top 10% of the valuable cards. They want the other stuff. They want to enjoy. I mean, I see it. I'm a member of like all the Facebook groups, all the trading groups. And there's definitely like, there's so many in search of posts out there for cards that they're middle of the road cards. Like, there's people wanting to complete Aquapolis sets. There's people wanting to complete expedition sets because they're freaking cool. Like, there's people out there wanting to complete Nintendo promo sets. They want to complete, Wizards and Japanese promo sets, but just because they want the cards. And like, I see the same people posting, flipping, buying, selling, and I keep seeing like they're trying to make money to get something that they want. Like, there's a lot of people in this hobby that are not buying stuff just to hold it, just to make money off of it. They just happen to be expensive collectibles that they want. They legitimately want them. So I guess I guess my point about that is, if you're going to buy something expensive, make sure you want it. Make sure you want it. Make sure you're not buying it just because it's a Rembrandt. It's not a Rembrandt. You know what I mean? Like, you make sure you want the thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I am really of the opinion that particularly the people who have big collections and just or inventory, if we want to call it from a business standpoint, these types of things. Like yes, you're going to have people who, there's just a lot of money in it for them. You're going to find some of these people, and that's why they've been doing it. And honestly, like, I think most people could probably tell or have some sense of who are the people who are more kind of going through the motions versus who are the people who are like super passionate, whether we talk about people on social media or other places. But, someone like, I forgive a lot of stuff from certain content creators or influencers because they're like my fellow brother in this, is the way that it can feel sometimes. It's like when this person talks, I know they have the same passion and fire and interest for this stuff. And part of what I've said to people is I will just own every card if people stop caring about this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will own every card.
Yes.
And weird. And I don't know. I'd have to worry about like the space. I guess I'm going to put them all.
I
But
used to think exactly like that when I used to collect, like when this shit
Yeah.
first started. I was like, I don't want one copy. I want 100 copies of this
Yeah.
card.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm collecting like alpha cards right now. And I fucking love it. And I don't give two shits what anybody thinks. Like, and that's the same way
That's
I
the best
felt.
thing you can do, though.
And that's the same way that I felt about when I was building my Pokemon collection, when I'm buying my World's promo cards and these types of things. And now I also am very business minded and investment minded and financial minded, in large part, to go to your point, Echo, because I have big goals and because I'm a social worker. And so,
Yeah.
and so I have to be really good at investing to compete with people who have $300,000 incomes, $500,000 incomes, $1 million incomes in cash. I have to be like the best of the best. And I feel like I've done that, and I've worked extremely hard to be that over the last 4 years. 5.
Yeah. You have to be passionate about it. You could, of all the people in here, maybe don't own their own business, have a 401k through work. You could say to them, do you have a traditional, do you have a Roth 401k? They might not even know. And then if you were to dive in and say, what different funds does your 401k plan, what is your money actually invested in? They might look at you like, what? Like, I don't know. It gets taken out of my check every month. And it's like, well, and people will talk about investments like that. But the way I look at Pokemon is when you spend the time, when you actually care about it and you do the research and stuff, like that is how you can be more successful and stuff like this, in my opinion. But that's the big caveat is if you don't find this stuff interesting, if you don't have a passion for it, like you can't try to keep up with the Joneses in Pokemon if you don't actually care about anything. It would be impossible.
Yeah.
So
it would be such a grind, and I do think that it can, right? I think that there's the golden handcuffs, right? So if you're making so much, and this is true for anything in life, if you were making a lot of money at something and you lose passion for it or interest in it, you continue to do it and grind it out because you're making a lot of money. And that happens to people. And that doesn't mean that they didn't have genuine interest at one point. That is something and a normal thing that can happen to everyone. Is losing passion for something, but you've built an empire, or you built something, these types of things can happen. What I will say is that, fortunately for me, and I have not been doing it 15, 20 years, but fortunately for me, I love it as much today as I ever did. But part of it is also because I do have so many things I haven't touched or I'm building to, I'm sure. But I also love the community. Like I love building this Patreon. I love trying to build something that allows me to sustain this, so sustain the amount of time and effort I put into understanding things, help me get more income that I can then build into the collection. I want to open a museum someday. And I also that I'm good for this hobby and that I'm going to do things over the next 10 to 20 years that are going to be a really positive overall for this hobby. I believe in that, I do, and this is also why I became a social worker, but that's that part of me too, of like, it's not just there. Hobbies like this and these types of things and dealing with other people, you can achieve and accomplish a lot of things. So for me, I want to help educate, spread knowledge. I definitely also selfishly want to learn from people and grow, and have taken so much from Scott Pratt and TCA Gaming and all these people who were here before. But, now I'm in a position where I want to give back and teach and educate and share. But I also want to build up the hobby. I want to make it fun. I want to make it enjoyable. I want people to be here because they really want to be here, not get scammed, not get, on bad purchases. And I feel like you two are probably, have the exact same passion, which is probably what drives sort of your YouTube channels and your engagements with people,
Yeah, I think a lot of it for me, and I don't know about Echo, but a lot of it too is, my channel definitely like grew out of the pandemic, and a lot of that was just really being bored at home, like, okay, I got nothing to do. I want to talk about Pokemon. And as you understand, like you can write in all the Discord chats or all the E4 forums you want, but it's not the same as standing on your soapbox kind of and just, chatting away. So sometimes, typing up something, you just can't get your point across. And if you do try to get your point across, it will be a 1 million character long thing and no one's going to read it and everyone's going to tell you to shut up. And then it just takes one guy to just come in and say, no, you're wrong. And then everybody piles on you, Yep, so I think that's a lot of mine. But like you were saying, Jake, and I agree. And I almost was hoping I could come on this stream and not agree with you as much, but I feel like I keep agreeing with you. But you're right in the sense that I do want to see people continue to grow in this hobby. And like my big thing is for people to grow in the hobby, they can't like do things that are foolish now where they burn themselves out and then they start to think that's how the whole hobby is and they can't really manipulate or like navigate it at all. And I feel like that's the biggest detriment that a lot of the new collectors are going to really experience. So, but it goes back to what I said earlier is the people that make it out of this 2020 craziness, they're going to be really good in the long term. And like I said, I'm bullish on Pokemon. So if I think they come out of 2020 stronger than they went in, I think they're still going to do good in the long term. And as a hobby as a whole, I think the hobby's going to do like really good. Like, and again, I'm biased, I'm bullish, so I don't know.
So I think I going off what both of you I've never in my life had more fun in this hobby than when I was running a Pokemon League in a Toys R Us or in a Wizards of the Coast store back when they existed, or at a church. We used to have one at a church on a Sunday afternoon with 20 kids teaching them how to play the card game. Just watching and I had a group of friends. There was like 5 or 6 of my closest friends. Like we all went to league together. But it was such a community of, just people that liked the same thing, just which can go for any hobby. Like that is what drove me to wanting to start my channel again. I had videos on my channel back from 2011 of pack opening and stuff. But that was never the point of it. But like when I actually decided to make it into an actual channel, it was because I was locked down in COVID and I wanted to experience this again and try and recapture a part of my childhood that had more to do with the friends I made than anything else. Like I liked the cards. I loved the cards. I loved playing the game. I loved how everything about this hobby interconnects with each other. The shows, the video games, they build on the cards, the artwork is fantastic. There's the chase element to it. There's for people that are completists who just have to have one of everything, there's that element to it. But on top of all that, if you have a good group of people and friends on top of that, it just adds to everything. So
yeah.
If it all went to zero, as long as they're still making cards, I'd still have fun with it. I mean,
and the thing is it won't for this reason, because psychologically, and it could because people could move on to something else, but psychologically, it's all about connection. It's shared childhood experiences. It's shared growing up experiences, shared adult experiences. And it was a way for people to connect and feel a sense of community over COVID when a lot of us were isolated, and looking for more of that and reaching for more of that. I know for me, like I lost playing with my band. I lost my basketball game three days a week,
art league.
It's human nature, and it's a wonderful thing to want to connect over shared interests, and I'm going to throw it out there. Dudes are really bad at, and this is, there's a lot of data to back this up. guys are much lonelier than women. Adult men are much lonelier than women because they're not as good at talking about each other's days or like calling your friend up and saying like, what did you do today? Like, how are you? We need activities generally and shared interests. And so talking about economics and sports and politics and Pokemon cards and collectibles and all this sort of stuff, it's very healthy, and so and then my investor brain says all of that stuff is where the investor and the pro social and positive can connect. And this is why I'm so angry at some influencers this year and some people this year who to me lined their pockets over creating something more sustainable. And I don't even know if they thought of it that way or they even frankly think on this level, to be completely honest.
But if you ever tried to call out some of those people, like some of the real big PokeTubers, like on the streams or anything, like the masses, they eat you alive. Like they don't want to hear that too, which is it makes you nervous too,
Good to say these things because, and the stance I always take is like, we all should want everyone to succeed. And the biggest channels are the most important channels for the hobby because they're going to connect and talk to and touch and talk to most people and bring most people in. And so those channels listening to this and thinking, fuck these guys, is not good. But those channels listening to this and say, you know what, like, can I incorporate some of this stuff? Do I take seriously that I care and I want to grow this hobby, or am I making decisions to line my pockets? Is a good message to be putting in front of the powerful people, and, I mean, we're very small, creators and we have very small, reaches and niches. And I love my small niche. I'm having a blast, but I also care about the broader community and people. And so it can be frustrating to feel like this stuff isn't said in this sort of way or conveyed on any large channel in the Pokemon community. Like there isn't any high level, I'm just going to put it honestly, there isn't any high level, really heartfelt, psychological, philosophical market talk on a large channel that is compassionate, and that I feel like isn't a person, mix in and all of that, and there just may not be that interest for it. But then I think, but Rudy's humongous, and, Poke Knowledge and I were talking about it. And again, I have another job and, I have a full-time job and I'm doing the best I can, just kind of doing what I'm able to do. And, so in terms of like trying to improve this channel to make it more friendly with the algorithm and that people would like, would be interested in this, I don't know if that's something that I could really do, but I guess to end that sort of ramble and rant, I'm very happy and pleased with my community here and the friendships I've made, and I love having these conversations. Like I'm having a blast, and I'm so thankful for it. It's really something I look forward to, and a great way to unwind from my other job. But
and I think you're right too, is when you talk about those really big guys, like, they probably will never have that investment side talk or that really heart to heart, because as much as we want to look at these people as being like, something that they're not, with the exception of like maybe a Rudy, is the people we're watching on these really big channels, they're actors in a way, they're portraying a persona, they're portraying like, like, I pulled this crappy modern card, oh my God, like, and where we're just going to come on here and like, honestly, like this is me, whether I'm on the camera or not. Like you could meet me on the street. If we were having a conversation, like it would be the same,
Yep.
So I think that might hurt us with the giant like Pokemon sphere, is that sometimes people just don't like to hear the truth too. And I understand that, like you go to YouTube for entertainment in a way too, but we're giving them the truth, and sometimes they don't like that. But sorry,
I think you're right on it, but I don't think it's that they don't care. The truth's not entertaining. People want entertainment, and in order for us to talk and have the type of discussion we are, it's very difficult to make that exuberant and make that as entertaining as ripping open 1,000 evolution packs on a 16-hour stream and going till 5 in the morning and freaking out every time you pull $1,000 card, some arbitrary number for some value card. It's self-fulfilling. The more entertaining you are, the more audience you reach. The more audience you reach, the higher the value of the cards go, the more packs you sell. It's completely cyclical. I mean that I blame a lot of those people, but in the same respect, I can't too much because I did watch them. I watched some of those streamers
I
too.
watch, I still, every time PokeRev does like his, what is it, Tuesday night vintage box breaks, like
Yeah,
I've watched so many, especially when he does like the e-reader. He
I
recently
can't.
did,
I can't anymore. I just
uh,
can't bring myself to watch those.
yeah,
It.
I can because I don't, I just can't
I love
open those
that.
packs, like I can't
Yeah, I get
experience them
that.
any other
And
way.
I like PokeRev's channel when he's opening product, particularly vintage stuff, and he's really good at engaging with his audience. And he's opening very expensive stuff that I can never open, So, and for me, it's almost like, can I succeed? Like, if he succeeds, does that mean I can't succeed, or a channel like this can't succeed that's trying to do a different thing, or can both succeed? You know what I mean? Does it have to be that this type of stuff, like it's one or the other? And then I get into, like, if we look at the broader YouTube landscape, right? And we look at, like, Mr. Beast did like a collaboration with a bunch of like the top, influencers. And I'm looking at these YouTubers, it's like, okay, who are these people with the biggest channels? What are they saying? Are they vulnerable? Are they sharing? Do I connect with these people? And I really don't, with any of them, really. I think of all the ones he had on, I like Mark Rober's videos because they're just so well made and interesting. But like, I don't connect with, like, he doesn't talk this way, or he doesn't say these types of things. So it's what works on the platform. Maybe it's what's popular, but then I look in other areas and there are creators with 1 million, the 2 million, 3 million, where they're sharing, they're connecting, they're saying really fascinating, smart, interesting things, and so it does exist. And then it's like, well, can it not happen in Pokemon? Is it me? Is it us? Is it that I'm not?
No, I think it can happen. I have some ideas on actually how to make a topic, our type of topics, more interactive and more um desirable to watch. So like my idea is to do something similar to like a Joe Rogan podcast, but it would be very difficult to do in that instead of doing a Zoom session, get 5 people in a room with a cameraman and let's actually bust out our collections. And as we're discussing, let's talk about, like, have the stuff in hand where we can actually show people, but have it like an actual podcast in a room. Those type of channels tend to do very well. So if you made it almost like a show, like an actual show, like a Pokemon show, I think that type of channel, just the from the camera work and the camera angles alone, might draw more of an audience in, but you can always keep the topics the same. You could always keep the content, which you want to, control it how you want. But I think making the people, you have to become your own brand. You have to have your own, like, you have to become a persona, sort of like and I don't know, maybe that means, being more vulnerable. Maybe that means I don't know, being more out there. But I think the more interactive you become, the more people want to watch it. People like vlogs. People like real world type of stuff. Like one thing I want to do is once I'm able to do more stuff in person, I want to do more vlog style videos where it's not just talking to a camera, but taking people with you, taking people to large scale tournaments, taking people into Pokemon League, taking people to collecticons, walking around, like day in the life type of stuff. And then maybe ending the night with like a roundtable discussion with like 4 or 5 people where we all get together and we actually, talk in person. I think voyeurship draws a lot of audience in America. A lot of people like reality shows. So I think something like that would go over well as a medium to convey whatever message you want to convey.
I had like a kind of a thought like that too, but it would be like in person, but it would require too much editing. But you ever seen like the drunk history on Comedy Central? I was always thinking about what if you did like drunk Pokemon where
That's
like you
funny.
guys were just sitting drinking and telling like Pokemon stories or telling histories of cards and like how you remember releases or manipulation or like, like just I think that would be really funny too, where you could just be like, yeah, fuck, I remember when this guy did this.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be funny. That would be awesome. If we could get like 6 or 7 people in a room that would, I think I'd watch it. I think it'd be hilarious. I think a lot of people would watch it.
Or even, yeah.
But there is something to be said for ripping 1,000 packs or ripping vintage packs. Like you almost don't, those long streams. I mean, the reason I did it was you could put it on in the background. But I do the same thing with Jake's podcasts and a lot of the podcasts. Like I was telling you guys off camera, like I'll put this stuff on when I'm driving now in my car just to absorb the knowledge. I think, I think, I think this might just tie into the fact that the majority of people in our hobby just want to open packs of cards.
But like, what about Rudy's channel?
But doesn't he, but isn't he primarily a Magic channel?
I think everyone watches him.
Yeah.
And I don't think Magic, like you think the online YouTube Magic. I mean, maybe there are more investory people interested in more of the and maybe it's an older audience in Magic than Pokemon, but and Rudy's been doing this for 6 years.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I think that's when people listen to Rudy talk, you could, let's just say in a hypothetical situation, you just went and literally copied his video and said word for word what he said. You wouldn't get, yeah, people would say the views you were given, they would just like shit all over him because he has worked his way up to get to that point. But now kind of what you're saying, Jake, is you're right. Like, could you get to that point? And it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I think like I just wish that there was some like a big channel that I related to. I want to say this because I think this is where it's really coming from for me. I like these long hangout conversations. I want to make money more off the Patreon and off of more of providing that type of thing. I'm not looking to be a big channel for my sort of business side. I think I just wish that there was like a big Pokemon channel that I watched and I was like nodding my head to. And I was like, I love this person. I trust this person. I think this person really, really cares about people. And I think that they're saying like really smart, like interesting things that make me think. And I don't have that. I mean, I started my YouTube channel. First of all, when I started, there was like nobody, like almost no one, making this type of stuff. Now there's a ton, and there's probably guys out there who are like smaller than me or around my size that like, hopefully they'll get big and I'll be watching their channel someday and I'll be like, I love this. Like, I love this guy. Like, I love this sort of thing. And maybe it's just a time thing. And it's more of like, if someone will kind of make it or figure out how to combine things, and then we'll all be able to kind of like enjoy that channel and be in that chat and watch it and hang out there. But those are my thoughts, I guess, because it's I don't want it to become, and I think it can become this sort of like, if these big channels are that successful, like we have to not be successful, versus like those, like there are these channels that are really enjoyable for what they are, which is like pack opening, entertainment, always positive, always upbeat, always these types of things. And I have no problems with those channels as long as I don't feel like they're abusing their people watching by selling their stuff at too high of a price or by upcharging based on their personality or their fame. I do have a problem with that if I feel like that's happening. Who gives a shit what I think? But like, I as a human being, I have those are my opinions and feelings. But outside of that, it's like I like watching that, but I also it's not like it doesn't energize me in the same way that like this type of conversation probably would.
Yeah.
So
And one of the greatest compliments I've gotten since I made the channel, like one of the greatest compliments I could give to one of you or both of you is while I enjoy watching your content, I don't always agree with everything you're saying. And for me, like that's such a great content or compliment, because when somebody says that to me, it's like, wow, they actually like enjoy the channel, they enjoy the conversation, but at the same time, they're making their own rational decisions and they're not just sitting back like sheep, just like nodding their head the whole time and never question anything. Like for me to say to you guys, or for you to say to me or somebody in one of my comments to say that and say, I like your channel, I just don't agree with everything, like that is the best.
Yeah.
So
And it means that you actually watch and listen. Like in order to disagree, you have to first understand.
yeah,
So that means that if you disagree with things that I've said, or that if I disagree with things that you've said, not that I do, but that means that I've watched enough of it to actually have thought about what you're saying. And that's a compliment. That's a
it
compliment
is,
because
it's the best compliment you could get.
yeah, it is. It definitely is.
And like that's why I said to Jake, I said I was hoping I was going to come on this channel. We weren't going to just agree the whole time. We could have like some,
Well,
real good debating back and forth. But when you boil this hobby down, and I think this hobby is, I think we look at it from as being like easier, and I don't know how to phrase it in a way where it's like, well, when you look at it, you just want to like share your insights or your thoughts, even if it's not, if it's right or wrong, as long as you believe in what you're saying. If you truly believe that whatever you're saying is the truth, like I think there's just merit to that, and there's that genuality to it too, which that genuality is like way more valuable in a sense than anything else.
I'm laughing because I'm looking at chat too, and somebody asked about Danny Phantom's channel, and I'm just laughing because they're like, they said, "Do you like his channel?" I really do, but the one thing I always think whenever I watched it, because I know how he operates, and he does a lot of his work after his full-time job. Like he says, he's up to like 4 a.m. doing stuff. That man looks so tired in every one of his videos. I want to feed that man a sandwich. After that, I'm just like, well, somebody get this guy a pillow. Like he just looks like he's been up for 24 hours, but yet he still finds time to make us videos. Like he just looks so tired. I'm like, well, oh my God, somebody tag someone in, Danny. Like tag someone in. You need some
Yeah.
helpers or something.
The only thing I could say about Danny Phantom is he will be opening up some packs and like pull a hollow, and he'll be like, "Oh, nice, we got this hollow." Like, Danny, I know how many booster box you crack open. Stop saying nice. I got this some generic crappy rare hollow. Like, don't do that. Just
And
be.
this is how I think about it, because when I feel like Leonhard or PokeRev or any of these guys like up a reaction or push a reaction that they're not necessarily like innately having, you could look at it negative, right? That they're kind of being deceitful. The positive way of looking at it is they're doing it for the audience and for the person whose pack it is. So the positive look at it is that person is getting their pack open by PokeRev, who they really love and who they maybe really look up to, and maybe it's a kid, right? Or even an adult, okay, and to have PokeRev kind of fires in the chat, let's do this, like that could be positive for them. Now, I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable as a human being to see, like, just I don't feel good when I see people not have necessarily authentic reactions to things all the time. I'm just be completely honest as a human being. Like I would enjoy the stream more if he was like, "Ooh, well, that was a shitty pack. Yikes."
I would be like, yes.
like I would enjoy that. He'd be like, someone
yeah, wasted $850, sucker.
Dude, it's funny because I remember ripping packs like from a player. Like I remember ripping packs and being like, "Oh, gold star. Okay, well that's okay. Well, oh, this trainer card I really need for my deck. Like I want yes, this is a great fucking pack because excuse me, this is a great pack because I got this 25-cent trainer that I really need and this gold star." Like
like when you're a professional at something and that is a job for them, you have you have to fake it sometimes, probably, because and that's a mindset and a way of thinking of like, my job is to be up for people, is to bring energy for people, and to make sure that people have a good time in that sort of way. And just because I don't respond to that positively doesn't mean that other people don't, but I do think some of it's just bullshit from the audience too. Like, and some of it is weird sort of clout chasing both ways. And some of it feels unhealthy and feels like kind of toxic-y. And this isn't necessarily on them. This is all social media, like a toxic positivity where people are like, do you really feel heard and connected when you engage on that sort of human level with people? I don't think so.
Positivity to a fault.
That fills you up in a sustainable way as a human being, for me personally. But I can see that side of it, and I certainly don't think it's like ill and like, I don't think it's coming. I think it's coming from like a I'm doing my job. This is my job type place, probably. If that makes sense.
So let me bring it back a little bit, because when we started this chat, we said what's next for Pokemon, and we all kind of were talking more in the positive, but you had mentioned that like, where could we go in the negative? I think it would be good for this chat to still give that thought of like, yes, we are very exuberant and we think like, rocket ship emojis at, Chillin' Ray booster boxes, maybe not that hardcore, but like, what could be the detrimental side?
The downside. Yeah. I mean, I think that I think the first thing to talk about is that even if some things go up really high, it doesn't mean everything has to go up, or everything has to go up the same, or things have to go up at all. And I think that these are concepts where you start to talk about like the junk era, in sports, or the comic book junk era, where they're, junk wax era for sports, or in comic books, the era where they started printing tons and tons of like alternative covers and crazier and flashier art. I do see a scenario where if Pokemon lowers their print runs again, starts doing serialized stuff, where some of this era could never move if it's printed enough. But I'm so bullish on Pokemon that I think Pokemon's going to get so much huger, and Pokemon prints so much less than sports printed, because part of the junk wax era happened so intensely was because they gave the rights to like 100 different companies, and all those companies printed every single thing, and they printed 1 million and like 30 sets a year of like 1,000, and just so much volume and over such a long period of time. I don't think that I think that Pokemon has a lot less cards that were printed. One, there were a lot less sets that were printed. There are a lot less chase cards that are going to come out of it as those eras. And I'm bullish that Pokemon may grow more than sports has grown, in terms of not getting bigger than sports, but in terms of a percentage of where we're at now versus where we could be, versus where sports kind of grew to be able to absorb some of that 90s product. And now if we take a look at sort of the 90s sports card market, a lot of the sealed boxes, particularly of things like your kind of more popular, kind of better looking sets, they really went up to $400, $500. And so, in some cases, these were boxes that sat at $20 to $50 for 30 years. Some of them are years. There were other sets though that really didn't move. And then there are tons of baseball cards that they're $10 a box. They're $5 a box right now. There are tons of cards that are still $10, $5, $15, but they were not the most popular key things. And they were things that were so printed into the ground. But there's just a lot of unknowns, guys. Like when you're buying a lot of these modern booster boxes, there isn't a guarantee. And as I've said all year, all of sort of the hype by modern channels, they just seemed they didn't seem knowledgeable enough, in my opinion, right, on junk wax era and some of the dangers, and not really able to kind of have those discussions, and were more repeating really stupid lines like, I think, but just think,
do it. Peer pressure.
And higher, like the whole history of Pokemon, every booster box is highest right now, so it's always going to go up. These just like nonsensical, irrational arguments that have nothing to do with how markets actually work in reality. Just because you're at all-time highs doesn't mean that you're going to continue to go up. In fact, all-time highs should be, oh, maybe this is a very bad time to buy. What has caused this all-time high? What has caused all these things is the correct response when you see all-time highs, not, oh, all-time highs, this is a wonderful thing, unless you're a momentum kind of short-term flipper investor, which is something separate, And so I think that there's a lot of reasons to be very bullish on Pokemon, but it's very different than it's been in the past. More has been printed than ever, probably, or maybe similar to base set or evolutions, of some of these sets. The big one, more people are holding this than ever before. People are holding tons and tons and tons of boxes, and a lot of these boxes got so expensive that they're not necessarily going to be opened that much or opened enough to really decrease that box supply that you're going to ever see like there only be 10,000 of any of these boxes left. Like that's going to be very tough to get to.
Do you know the number difference between, let's say Sword and Shield era boxes versus something like Unified Minds?
So on Patreon, we did Dan did how much we think of each set. Every set has been printed. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. We tried to use data that Pokemon Company made public and also combined it with other snippets like NASA. They gave some information to NASA. Like there's some weird kind of data points that we tried to kind of look at.
I saw that video.
Don't remember the numbers offhand, but we know it's the base was, I'm not even going to say because I would need to go look.
It was a lot more though, right? Like it was.
Yeah. I mean, we posited quite a bit more. I mean, but I don't remember the exact numbers, and it's highly speculative, our numbers are highly speculative. So
like, I agree with what you're saying in that a lot of what makes up a good set, a lot of your average YouTubers don't really get, I think. I don't think a lot of your average YouTubers get what is going to drive organic demand for sets. There are certain sets that are just poop. There are a lot of modern sets that are just poop, in my opinion, for a lot. And I could list you 10 different reasons why I think they're poop. There are some modern sets that I think are cool, good sets that will have organic demand and a lot of people will desire them in the future. And it's funny because I can look at my binders from the XY or the EX era. A lot of those sets, when they came out, I thought to myself, this is a cool freaking set. And you know what? 15 years later, everyone still says that's a cool freaking set. Like, but the number of those sets recently being printed, I think, is just few and far between. It really is. There's a lot of sets that come out that they have no identity. There's like 4 cards in the whole set that people are going to want, and the rest, they just have no identity. Like there's a lot of it, like the Pokemon Company just keeps pumping out generation after generation of nameless Pokemon that nobody care about. Like they just don't care about some of these Pokemon that are being made these days. They're just silly. And they're making cards of these Pokemon that, like, I mean, how many V cards are there up to now? And these are supposed to be the chase cards. And I see them like they go for like a quarter a piece, $1 a piece. And I don't think a lot of those are ever going to change, no matter how few or how many get destroyed. Nobody's really going to want your average Stonejourner V card. Whereas a lot of your older cards, they ran with the same generations of Pokemon. Like they were just ingrained into us. They didn't keep making more 100 Pokemon. Like it almost feels like a copy of a copy, and it just keeps getting diluted down and down and down. There are definitely some exceptions in modern, but I feel that way. I feel that way about modern, where last time I was in this hobby, I did not feel that way. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff. Team Rocket Returns is still one of my favorite sets. I love a lot about that set, but it has an identity. It's a themed set. Like we always used to like there was like a cycle. Like you had your gym sets, you had your villain sets, your Team Rocket, your Team Galactic sets. You had like every block had its sets. They had its identity. And what the hell is Evolving Skies? Like, what is that? Like, it's a cool set because there's evolutions in it, but I really wish the Pokemon Company International would mimic Japan. Japan's sets have such a better identity than our sets do. Whereas it was not like that before. There were a lot of the older sets, they mimic Japan's sets a lot closer than our current modern sets do. Um, so I could definitely see a scenario in where a lot of modern just does not retain as much demand and therefore value going forward.
Yeah.
With the exception of your few gold chase cards, sure.
So yeah, kind of like what you're saying. I have a very similar thought, but my fear is for the future of Pokemon. And again, it's always talking about modern. But my big concern is that I think we're getting close on some products to what I think is the floor, probably like the lowest we're going to see some stuff. I think the majority of modern, we're still going to have to see a lot of this retrace before it hits that bottom. But my fear is while I'm bullish on Pokemon and I think it's going to have an upward trajectory in the future, and especially when sets come out of print and stuff like that, my fear is if we hit that bottom and we just stay like flatline along that bottom price. And what could really hurt too is some of these like modern cards, why, yes, they are very abundant, especially some of these real big alternative art chase cards and stuff. They're still very, very hard to pull. So if we start to see those real high-end chase cards that could be like 1 per 1,000 pack or something like that, if we see those start to flatline so low and they flatline long-term, if you have a chase card that's 1 out of 1,000 packs and it's selling for, less than $10 or something crazy like that, forget about the booster box. Like that will flatline for years. I think that would be like my one concern.
That's true. The only thing booster boxes have, it will flatline boost. This is why I said you'll never see Chilling Range at $10,000 a box,
No,
but it might be $500 a box.
Echo, I understand what you're saying. You'll never see a 10,000, but like from my point of view is like, I don't even like to honestly like entertain that dollar amount because I feel like some people like they use that too much as an argument, like, oh, you'll never see Chilling Reign at $10,000. And my argument will always be like, no, but can I see it at 180 in 5 years? Like that's how I'm looking at those in a realistic way.
Right, but I'm looking at a set like EX Deoxys. Let's take EX Deoxys. When it was released, it was a shit set. It was a shit set that had 3 good cards in it.
It was still a shit set that has 3 good cards in
but
it.
It has,
okay. Let me have you answer a question, okay? Should I put, so I can buy Chilling Reigns, I was buying it at $72 a box, $72.50 a box.
I bought it at 79, so you got me beat.
Should I put $50,000 in that? Or should I buy an EX Deoxys box for $50,000? Which one will I make more money in if I held for 5 years?
If I only had the 2 options, I would tell you I have no clue. That's going to be on you and your risk tolerance, right?
I would buy the Chilling Reigns.
I would buy the Chilling Reign because I think you could manipulate the market with 50 grand worth of Chilling Reign. I think you could bid that up yourself and start to manipulate prices with that kind of inventory.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you at $72, $73, I'm tempted on that Chilling Reign. And this is where, the whole year I was looking at booster boxes at 120 to 160 for many months. And I was thinking, this is so ridiculously overpriced and completely not worth buying in at these types of prices. But it's $72. And with boxes,
I don't want to say that stuff, but I'd be buying my own product at 50 grand and just, I would have that booster box up to $100 by next year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm putting my money in
on eBay.
In cards that are trophy cards that 6 were only made for $6,000. That one I think is a much better buy than either of these. To be honest with you.
For
and
sure.
Yeah.
much better collector item and going to be a much better investment, in my opinion. But I think
I think that's the answer to your question, though, is that there's just better options out there. But I would
both-
still say if you want to play a little bit of Chilling Reign, go for it. But 50
Sure.
grand, buy other stuff. That's
Yeah, I think so. My comparison between Chilling Reigns and Deoxys was just to illustrate the point that there are certain sets that I understand in a way, looking hindsight, sorry, EX Deoxys is 50 grand a box. I understand why it's that high.
yeah, but Echo,
Uh,
think there's other sets that are still super expensive that shouldn't be. Like, think about Unseen Forces.
mhm.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna pull one of the Gold Star dogs at a million, a
Well,
million
the
of them
Gold Star dogs are a
in the
little
Netherlands? Like, is that what
right.
you're gonna do? But look at how much that booster box is. It's like some of those, even like the chase cards, we've now gone away from because
I think that the majority of the people don't know about that Netherlands story, and they still see that the
it got
dogs are.
brought up in my chat the other day. That's why
Well, we're only a small percentage. I think the average people.
that was like November 2015, all that came above. That was when all those eBay listings were.
That Deoxys,
in my opinion, but I think booster boxes are overvalued and have
I do
been
too.
Yeah.
your history as
I do
compared to.
too.
There's a reason why I buy singles and PSA cards, and this is going to go very against a lot of what is common knowledge or common thought, which is like the booster boxes are safer and you should always buy booster boxes. I've made far more money in singles and graded cards, and I think they're a lot better and a lot more enjoyable. They take up a lot less space. They're much rarer, and we know exactly how many there are. When you're buying now, it's different for lower end because lower end is the enjoyment of opening it, and the value of the cards inside is nothing. So,
Right.
for example, like
It's just an added on thing at that point. Yeah.
Evolution booster box is much better than buying your Evolutions cards inside.
Oh,
Because
for sure.
the whole experience of that box really should be at this point. You just want to open base set, for people who
Right.
some can open up enough evolutions yet. I have no idea how that's possible, but it is what it is. but that's a great example, right? Of like, there's so many of those cards inside, and there's a million unlimited base set. There's a ton of base set too. There's a ton of legendary collection. Now there's a ton of that. There's a ton of celebrations. It's like, you can get that card, that art in a million styles. They're going to keep reprinting that Charizard art for another 20 years, so it becomes very much like clearly the values in the booster box because it's the opening and it's that enjoyment. But when you're looking at Unseen Forces or Deoxys box, can't open that box unless you're PokeRev and you sell the packs.
Yep.
Versus the risk and the value across a bunch of people at $1,000 a pack or whatever. And so it becomes like, I'm stuck with this box. Like, you can't open this box, and the only person who, now there might be some really rich person who's willing to open that box, but it's crazy. Like, it'd be really crazy to open that box, like the whole box
It
yourself.
would.
I don't even think Logan Paul or someone who has hundreds of millions of dollars at this point, they seem way too interested in money and financially savvy. I mean, you'd really have to, like, and I'm going to be completely honest, like, who gives a shit? Like, is it really that, I'm swearing a bunch tonight, but is it really that valuable to you to open packs? You care that much that you need to open? And maybe some people, they just need to open every box, but like, I love this stuff and I love opening packs, but I'm super happy to opening modern, right? I don't have to stress and freak out all the time. Like, I just don't,
True.
as a collector and investor, I don't understand the evaluations on these types of things. Whereas when I look at this low pop trophy card for 6,000, or when I look at it, at even these WotC Hollow first editions or the Gold Star cards, that they're only 50 graded 10 in the world. There are only a few thousand of these graded, in total. And I think that there are probably 10, 50,000 of those sealed boxes out there. People just don't know about it because they can't, because there's no pop report for them.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. So, what was the card you just, if you want to share, what was the card that you just bought? If you want to, it doesn't have to be that one. Name another low pop, low unknown trophy card.
I mean, for me, the world's promos and stamp promos, I've talked about them on this channel. For me, they're the most undervalued cards in the hobby, have been for an extremely long time from a rarity historic perspective. And
Sure.
the reason that they were low is because they were sort of like, they were kind of, they were thought of historically as like not the trophy card. The only trophy card is the full art Pika, this or that, even though the full art Pikachu trophy or the half art Pikachu trophy is less rare than the champion stamp. And the champion stamp is going for only a few $1,000s, and the full art or half art's going for 50,000, 100,000. You know, that difference is a lot. But then when we even look at it's an affordable trophy card. You can actually go out there instead of buying an Art Academy card for $5,000. I have a ton of Art Academy cards. I freaking love them, right? You can buy a stamped top 16, that is, or a quarterfinals that it's the same rarity for a fifth the price, and it's from a tournament, but again, I don't think Art Academy is necessarily overvalued when we compare it to the Master Scroll, which is insanely overvalued. And then
it is.
I don't think the Master Scroll is as overvalued as the University Magic card, which is even more overvalued. So and then how do you have a trophy Kangaskhan going for $150,000 and a champion stamp that there are only 6 of going for 6,000?
Manipulation, Jake. I talked about it before this stream started.
And we can just popularity.
I don't know. Hold on. I would much rather have the Kangaskhan card than I would much rather have the Kangaskhan card, and I can tell you why. Than I would. I have been hearing and seeing of that Kangaskhan card since I opened Beckett 1998 or 1999.
That was a 98 card though, and I think maybe for that card, I can I understand the Trophy Kangaskhan argument is that it's the first of the unnumbered cards, right? It's the first of, it was only in the tournament that you had to play with your peer. And I could understand all that. My only problem with that card is when you think about some of the more recent sales, think about some of the people that sold that Kangaskhan and the prices they were able to get versus other auction houses that maybe didn't have the influencers hyping up the price and how much drastically lower that same Kangaskhan trophy card sold for.
Yeah, I hear you. That's true.
Like think about, and I'm pretty sure you know who I'm talking about, who sold it and then it sold right after for way less, because you can manipulate those markets just a little bit too easy. Now, what Jake said earlier in this video is like, in the long term of this hobby, can trophy cards be like $1 million? Like, I would say hypothetically, yeah, like that is if the Pokemon hobby grows in the way we hope it does. But
there's the rumor that there's going to be a video release soon about
but did you see Logan Paul just said he bought the sealed case of first edition boxes? Unless he did that and then also did all of Scott's trophy cards.
Yeah.
I think maybe he did both. I think there's a video coming in January.
Either way, like, to be completely honest, all of these cards are incredibly undervalued in my personal opinion compared to these set cards. These set cards are all going to be much, much more expensive too, because I do believe, this is just my belief, my opinion, I'm very bullish on the Pokemon market. I'm bullish on all these companies. We talked about in the beginning of the stream, the reason why I think it's going to build over the long, long, long term. I have no idea how long it's going to take. No idea.
Well, when you say these set cards, what set cards?
WotC, PSA 10 first edition hollows.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All of them, and the Gold Stars and the original Nintendo EX era into the Level X, Diamond and Pearl era, into the Black and White, SL, some of these amazing, cards.
But what do you think about modern? And I'll define modern as XY era on.
I mean, I think that a lot of these full arts, going into Black and White, there are gorgeous full arts from some of these sets that I think are going to really be popular over time because they're really beautiful. They're some of the most kind of beautiful, rare, early type full art cards. Then I think when you go into, pre kind of evolution, a lot of those sets were not printed that much. There's some nice looking cards, in that. I think when you go into Sun and Moon, I don't think Sun and Moon is necessarily printed that much. I think those rainbow rares they're the same pull as the gold star, one and two booster boxes. And I'm buying them for $15 already graded. I mean, that to me could be easily $200 cards someday, $300 cards, potentially some of these cards, in the long run. So I think there's a ton of opportunity, but it all depends on price point.
Do you
The
think,
full arts thing about the Reshiram Zekrom from Black and White, like that card, both those cards sell for, I bet you could probably pick up both of them raw for, I don't really know the
Very
current
cheap,
prices, but I'm
very
gonna say
cheap.
less than $50 a piece for literally the first full art cards from, and probably that Black and White pack. Honestly, I don't know what Black and White packs, don't buy Black and White packs, but I bet you they're selling for like $60 or something stupid, where literally the chase card of the set
Do
sells
you,
for less.
do either of you guys ever foresee in the future? And if so, maybe say when, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, a point in time in which any of the black and white onward sets, sealed boxes, have a value equivalent to an EX era box?
I think some of them are sadly creeping dangerously close. I saw like Emergent Powers boxes selling for like $4,000. Think about
Wow.
that dollar amount for Emergent Powers, which is arguably the worst set ever because of
I,
just that rarity.
I
Now,
was not aware of that. Okay,
but now,
interesting.
I'd rather
the question is, now this is a question. I don't know if you asked the question, will they ever like be the same price as EX? No. But will they
No,
ever eventually creep up to the prices that EX are currently selling at right now? I
that one.
wouldn't throw it out of the realm of impossible. Now, whether or not I think there's like the logistics behind that, and if that makes sense, is a whole nother conversation. I totally don't
Sure.
think prices make sense. But do I think honestly we can see some black and white booster boxes crack the five figures, like 10 grand? Like it's possible.
So what I would say is, number one, I don't have the black and white era knowledge to predict which one of those would be that. I don't. I was not around during that time. But for anyone, I would say for anyone who's listening, who could make a correlation, and you would have to have been around the game and have organic knowledge of those boxes and been around when they were released and been in the hobby and not just opening them, but been involved in the hobby. If you, I understand why Deoxys is what it is, a box. That Gold Star Deoxys is one of the most beautiful freaking cards ever released, in my opinion. And it was then and it is now. And it's such a chase. People want that card. So if you can predict which one of these black and white era onward boxes are worth holding because you think they're going to be the chase box that 20 years from now that just has cards that people are clamoring over, then I think that's something to predict right there.
I would think
Because
you would have a better luck with some diamond and pearl era boxes
sure,
over black and white. I think the black and white argument, it's just so hard for me to get like over where I think those prices should be. But I think maybe there's some like good like diamond and pearl sets when you start more including the level X's into the conversation and then seeing what level X prices are doing now, maybe looking at some of these, like think about like a Stormfront booster box, right?
right,
Like Stormfront has the best level X in all of Diamond and Pearl. It's the level X Raichu because yes, I am a Raichu collector. So it's obviously the best. And any other argument I tell people is false. But then like a Stormfront, you think about the three secret rares, you have the reimagined Charmander artwork.
right, and the Charizard,
Uh,
right,
yeah, and then the Charizard reimagined done by Arita. And
right,
that even that artwork in that, like I can see that booster box in the future, not just, and then it also has a lot of other good level X cards, to be honest, and then
true.
even the hollows and everything, like that's one of those sets that when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, that's a solid set. That set makes sense to me. And then when I see a booster pack of that sell for $100 compared to some other packs, and I'm like, all right, like, would I rather spend $100 on a Stormfront booster pack or $100 on a Fossil Unlimited booster pack? Not even a question in my mind which one I would buy.
Yeah. I think a lot of this, and this is my gripe with Nintendo and modern, I don't know what happened to set design, but I haven't seen anything since Gold Stars that has really recaptivated that uniqueness of the Gold Stars. They just had, they like leading up to them, sets and eras tried to do, you had your, you had your EX style cards, which evolved to your level X cards, which evolved to your prime cards. But then every set had chase cards, like chase cards.
Mhm.
Your shinings, your gold stars, um, your crystals. So I remember when those gold stars came out, they just hit different. They just did. And I have yet to see rainbows don't do it. Golds don't do it. Mega EXs don't do it. They don't hit the same. I've yet to see a
Part of
single.
that though is because you're an adult.
Yeah,
So
I think some of the alternative hearts for some of these new collectors are hitting that a little bit,
I
Joe.
was an adult. I was an adult, and my friend groups were adults when the other stuff came out.
my point in that is like you could now we like I can afford right a couple booster boxes to get a rainbow. But when I was a kid, I would not have been able to. Like pulling a rainbow rare would have is the equivalent of pulling a gold star in terms of rarity, in terms of difficulty to pull
Sure.
Sun and Moon era. And that I, but again, you were there. So I could be mistaken here that you feel like because maybe the art style or whatever, or the fact that it was bursting out of the border, or the fact that it had that gold star, that there was something about it. It wasn't just the pull rate that captivated you. It was the
Oh
card
yeah. It was the card itself. That's what am I getting at? It's not the rarity level. It's the card itself. I can't quantify what it was about those gold star. This is what I'm trying to get at. You can't quantify what we like. It's hard to, but I think that those cards just, you could show, if you showed those two cards to your average, I wouldn't say, I don't know about kid, but I don't know the age range. If you show those to your average person, I still think that, like, and you said, which one of these do you like better? I still think majority of the people would take the gold star cards. And I don't know why, but I can say that that is a thing. The only thing, just make this one point. The only thing I've seen so far that's got me as excited as those gold star cards are the upcoming V star cards. The
So,
few,
Joe, I want to ask you a question because I was not around during that time period. Were you still around like for Dragon Frontiers and stuff? What
yeah,
was the hype around, the Charizard Mew?
the Delta species ones.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
No,
fantastic.
no, no. So the Gold Star Charizard, Gold Star Mew.
Oh, they're amazing. They're some of my other favorite cards. The Gold Star Charizard was hyped, was
It,
extremely hyped.
it was
Right?
hyped
Yes, people wanted that card.
because
Hell
that was
yeah.
one of the later Gold Stars. So I figured it had to just have
Oh yeah.
everything wrapped up into it.
The only thing they could have done better was made more of them. Honest to God, people wanted those gold stars. They were because they're also shinings. They're the alternate a lot. I don't know about all of them. I know some of them are. They are the alternate color palettes of the Pokemon. It's
Yeah.
it's it's black Charizard. It's
Yeah.
freaking cool as hell looking. Um, and I don't. Okay, so we have gold shining Mew from Celebrations.
let me offer why maybe because it was the first time that something was ever that rare.
Mm, maybe. I
So
mean,
it never opened, because on the Japanese side, the shinings were rare from Neo Destiny, and Neo Rev. But on the English side, you were pulling multiple a box. You were pulling multiple crystals a box.
Yeah.
These
Crystals. Yeah.
these were the first cards ever that you were pulling that I'm thinking of here that you were pulling, maybe outside of like your secret rare Raichu or something. I forget the pull rate from
right.
Now, Joe, you were in the leagues and everything. Were you excited about Pop Series 5 though? Or
Yes. No,
what?
actually, no. Nobody liked pop. I kicked
Even though
myself
they had
because
gold stars with,
they had
like
one gold star and
solutions?
nobody wanted it because it wasn't a holographic.
That's
Nobody wanted
interesting.
it. I could have had so many more pop Umbreons because nobody wanted them. I mean, they'd be binder fodder, honest to God.
Really?
Like people wanted them to complete your set, but it wasn't like, holy shit, this is gonna be a $5,000 card, guys. Like, nobody thought that. Nobody, promos, I mean, English promos back then weren't very valuable in general, outside of maybe one or two. Pre-release Clefable had some value behind it, but in general, promos were not ever thought to be, oh my God, this is going to be very limited, very rare, short printing. There wasn't as many people trying to collect complete sets of all the gold stars. That wasn't a thing. So this is what I'm trying to extrapolate out and place into modern, because I'm buying a lot of modern and I'm trying to predict what the hell is going to be popular 15 years from now.
Are you buying it to open or buying it to keep sealed?
No, I buy, like, I have here, like,
Or are you buying
stack.
singles?
This is a stack of bulk celebrations that I buy a lot of celebrations. This is a stack of amazing rares. Like, I'm trying to find stuff that I both like and that is gonna hit with people 15, 20 years from now.
So
And
I think that people are way overvaluing good arts right now. I think that there's a movement right now where I'm seeing certain cards, like I'm going to pick on like those alternative art, like Umbreon, Espeon, these types of cards, these like really like very beautiful cards with popular Pokemon, because there's going to be a lot of beautiful cards with popular Pokemon going forward. And there's going to be serialized beautiful cards, and there's going to be a Charizard alternative art, and there's going to be all these types of things that they're going to keep upping it. And there are people paying like $500 for that card, $1,000 for that card for a while. I'm not sure exactly what they're going for right now. And that to me is a massive overpay, because those cards are not too much better than Rainbow Rares from Sun and Moon. It just is what it is in my opinion. And the people are like, Rainbow Rares suck, we hate Rainbow Rares. Give it some time.
you think
My
so?
only thing
We're going to
about
be
Rainbow Rares
super
is
nostalgic
they
for
don't
Rainbow
display
Rares.
well.
What?
They don't display well. That's my only
I think
gripe.
they do. And I think if you put a lot of them together,
That I agree with.
there's very appealing because they all fit with each other. It's very appealing.
One thing I like to do is take the regular, the rainbow and the gold, if it's the same artwork, and take those display well next to each other too.
I think you can do that, because then your eyes would lock to it. Yeah.
When they start now, the Rainbow Rares from this generation are not going to be as valuable or as popular as from the Sun and Moon, because the Sun and Moon period with the Rainbow Rare was the key card. It was the most expensive card outside of, and then some competition from like the gold cards maybe, and maybe the full art trainers, right? So some of it.
I love like the Charizard Brexen Rainbow Rare from Cosmic Eclipse. Like
Sure.
I'm a big fan of that card. So
yeah, and it's pretty cheap. It's $100-$200 in PSA 10 versus the Burning Shadows. It's like $2,000 or something.
Right.
Yeah, and from one of the best Sun and Moon sets and all around, and a Charizard, and it just has so much going for it.
Yeah, I mean, a card like that versus like, but again, it's where I see the value in a lot of things are some of these cards that are like at $1.80. That when I buy a 20% off TCG player, I'm getting for 80 cents a card. And then now I'm getting, and I like shining cards, anything shining, particularly if it's a very iconic. So baby shinies are very iconic. Like that thing, because of Hidden Fates and then Shining Fates, like that look, like right now it's garbage. It's little garbage fire. Like there's a billion of them. They're everywhere, but that look is going to be iconic. The Rainbow Rare is going to be iconic. Alternative arts are too different from each other. Like, this is the way my brain thinks. What does an alternative art look like?
There's different levels to those shinies, though. Those baby shinies, there's different levels within those shinies. Like, there's some heavy hitters. I think there's a couple that are always going to stay real low.
I don't think so. I mean, what's low? To me, 50. If those ever get to $50 in PSA 10 or $100 in PSA 10, I'm going to make 20 times on my money, but potentially. So, no, that's way too much. Sorry. I'm going to make, at $50, I would probably make 5 times on my money. At $100, I'd make 10 times.
True.
Yeah.
And that's a very safe play because there's so darn many of them. And it's so you're hedging your bets. If any couple of them just take off, I mean, you've bought into all of them. I mean,
Yeah, you only need a couple to do it, hit it big.
But I really like, I'm very excited for what the new V-Star cards could be that have been released, that I've seen preview images for so far. And that new, who posted Swami, the new Charizard
Yeah,
that's
the
coming out
Charizard alternative art. Yeah,
with
that was neat.
Venusaur? Holy shit, that's a beautiful card.
Yeah, that Charizard's gonna break the hobby for a little while. People are gonna go crazy for that. But
But
I
I understand.
that's stuff I stay away from though.
Nope,
Hey,
I'm gonna buy as many of that as I
no,
can.
you want to buy what is boring people. So right now, people are bored of baby shinies. People like you want to buy the garbage fire, but but you see the value and the upside in the long term. And this is the one thing I'm going to tell people. Like, and I'm going to go back to this champions with the Trophy King too. And Basic Trainer in the chat said, I agree with you. Like your feelings about what you like better have so much to do with the prices, with the amount that you're seeing, with what influencers have been telling you for years. It has so much to do with that. But if you actually think beyond your subjective sort of emotional opinion about which card you like, and you think about the rarity, about the history, right? And I'm going to go to this champion. I'm going to say one more time. It's the first ever champion stamp. It was awarded just to the winners. Only the three winners. Only 3 people in the world got that card. Okay, first ever, right? For $6,000, versus $150,000 Trophy Kangaskhan, and I think Trophy Kangaskhan is one of the best cards in the hobby, right? As compared to the University of Magic card for these. And to be fair, a PSA 7 wouldn't be 150,000. It would be 40,000 or something, 30,000. I don't really know, 50,000, maybe 60. I'm not sure.
Sure.
But it's the same thing that we can then look at modern. Is that you have to get outside of what people like right now and even your feelings right now and think about what are people like, what are the true intangibles, fundamentals, the rarity, what are people going to like in the future? And we can argue that what we like now is what we'll like in the future. And what we like now is not because of other people's opinions or because something's expensive, but it's because we really like it. And I'm very much like, in some cases I agree. In other cases, I just see a ton of irrationality. Like the negativity on Stamps Worlds cards to me is a ton of irrationality and negativity. I own the most level X's, probably the most, black and white, all these eras because, and those like, when I saw those secret, like the Plasma Storm, like Charizard, I bought those all day. And everyone was like, they're crap. These generations are crap. Nobody likes these. This was the lowest time in Pokemon. No one is interested in them. No one will be interested in the future. Bunch of bullshit, right? It's the same, so this whole people are way too concerned with what people like now and not nearly concerned enough with what has an identity, what is a set, what is an identity, and what's going to hit in the long run.
Well,
I bought a lot of Power Keepers Charizards because everyone hated that artwork. And I was just like, this is the cheapest Charizard you can buy. And I just kept acquiring them every time I'd see one come up.
But that's Charizard.
Yeah.
So going off the Shining Charizard from which set is it, Jake? The one you're just talking about?
The Shining Charizard, which one do you mean?
The one that you said,
Plasma Storm?
Yeah, the Plasma Storm one. I only got a couple of them because by the time I learned I wasn't here when that card was released. But yeah, I saw that. I was like, that's a cool freaking card. I just won a couple of them for my collection. But going off of the whole, well, it's a theme, it's a type of, there's a gold execute card.
I own like 5, right? I own like 5 to 10 of all of those.
I don't think that execute's ever going to do anything.
I've made 20 times my money on it, at least 25 times.
Sure, but what is it at? You know what I mean? Like, what is it at right now? The last time I looked, I think the PSA 10s were like 200 to 300 and the PSA 9s were maybe like 50 to 100, but I bought them at like $12, $11 already graded or some raw. So it's like, I've made more money on that than the Charizard. Like people, like the thing is that, and and so when we talk about the baby shinies, well, we should just focus on the good ones or the high ones. Not necessarily. Like it's all about price point, and now it's easier. Yeah. I mean, when you're a business and what you'd rather own, and there's a lot of things. For me, I buy what's available.
if the Charizard was available at a good price, I'd buy that. If the Charizard wasn't and the Execute is available, I buy the Execute at that much cheaper price.
So,
That's
yeah,
how I shop, you know.
that makes sense. I think the difference is yeah, that makes sense from a business perspective. That makes sense. I'm confused. I'm throwing in there from a collector sense of like,
I love the Execute.
I don't.
I'm going after how I usually do my buys. I always do my buys as what's the cards that I think people are going to want in the future. That's like what has always been successful for me. But I understand what Jake is saying too, is if you're looking at it from strictly an investment, point for all these baby shinings, like, yeah, if you can pick up all of them, even the cheapest ones, and when you're looking at just strictly return on your investment, yeah, like if you could pick up some of these, like you said, at a quarter or 50 cents, like is $10, $20 out of the realm of impossible, especially graded a $20 PSA 10 baby shiny? Like, yeah, that would definitely be a very, huge possibility where I would just go after like the ones that I would think would do the best, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
And it's much less likely for me to get the same returns on the baby shinies as I will on the rainbow rares, as I did on the black and white era, as I did on the level X. And that's what I want everyone to hear and be aware of.
Okay.
It's just not going to do as well.
No
because
way.
there's,
Yeah.
because there are way more people holding it. I was the only one. I was one of 10 people in the world doing it. Now you've got thousands of guys hoarding baby shinies, probably. You know what I mean? So, but that doesn't mean that when you buy at $1 and you can then sell graded at $25, that's a phenomenal profit, someday. And now we may look in the future and it may never get there because Pokemon doesn't take off enough. And because there just isn't, grading maybe isn't as popular for modern anymore or something. And I have a little bit of a hard time seeing, like, I just don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. And I hate talking about, I've avoided this like all year, telling people go buy this, but it's really the message here. And I said this in the Patreon because we were, having this discussion, is like, you need to factor all of these things in and then make a decision as a collector, maybe partial investor, all these types of things. The good news is if you believe what Pokemon is going to do, like me, there's so many good financial buys. If you have the money, if you can afford it, I think that there's a lot of good opportunity right now. And you don't need to rush
set by set and find a card in every single
thing. Yeah.
Buying.
Yeah.
Even
and you don't need to rush. Yeah. And just take your time, build a nice collection that you enjoy, buy things that you like,
Yeah. Yep. I would definitely agree. Yep.
So is there anything you guys are doing that you think is a more long-term play right now? All right. I'm just going to come flat out and say it, and sorry, Jake, I'm going to plug tomorrow's video on my channel. So originally, before Jake messaged me, I had a video planned on my channel. I was going to crack this slab. So do you see it? Can you recognize the card?
Is that a Skyridge Starmie?
Nope, it's the Quapolis Hypno Hollow.
Okay.
So it's the one where he's eating the dreams.
Yeah, that's a great card.
So I bought this GMA 10 for nothing.
What'd you buy it for? What'd you buy it for?
$200.
It's a 10.
It's a 10, and it's a 10.
All right.
It's worth $500. It's worth $500 as a PSA 10.
Yeah. So I got a video planned. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna crack this now that we can do the $100 grade in for PSA. I'm gonna send it to PSA for $100. I'm gonna be into this for $300. Then I'm gonna send it to PWCC, and then I'm gonna make a video on how I do for all of it.
Good luck. I just got raped at PWCC on some Skyridge 10s, PSA 10s.
Oh, wait. Did you sell the 9s? Because I bought all those.
You bought my 9s?
I bought all of them. Every single
Those were mine. Yeah, those were mine.
You want to see my purchases? I bought every one of them.
That's funny.
I bought them it was like 22, 24, 29 was the highest I paid. Yeah, I bought all your Skyrim.
That's funny. I was wondering who got those. That's funny.
Sorry, man. I bought every single one of them. I won every auction for those.
That's fine. I have a bunch of 10s. and I like dipped my toe in with like 2 10s, and
Yeah.
they got like 40% less than eBay, and I was just like, nope, we're done. We're pulling out of PWCC right now.
Dude, I'm sorry. I bought every one of your 9s.
That's
I bought
okay.
every one of them. I was like, you had like I think I bought your Aerodactyl was the most expensive one. I paid $29 for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
PWCC got, yep.
I want to
But-
respond to one comment. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Poking on.
sorry. I'm sorry. I got super excited over that because I just
Oh,
what
it's
a small
great.
world.
It's
That's
very
funny.
funny. So Basic Trainer says that Jake said the only reason I like Trophy Con is because of prices and hype and influence. It totally disregards that he buys on value and growth, and other people buy genuinely what they like regardless. So I think you're missing my point. So my point is that Trophy Kangaskhan has a lot of factors that people, so why we enjoy things is for reasons, guys. So what you're kind of saying here is like, you just like things for no reason. The reason we tend to like things can be for lots of reasons. We might like the art. We might like the story. We might like the art, or just the general look of it. We might like that it's rare, that it's hard to get. We might like that people we respect have it and have talked really positively on it. All these types of things. Okay. Some of these reasons are going to be more intrinsic to the card itself, and some of these reasons are going to be more influencer or current state in the hobby. So this is really important to understand. So what I'm saying is the Trophy Kangaskhan has tons of great intrinsic value to it, and these qualities that us as human beings really like. Hand-drawn, cool, unique holo art with a popular Pokemon, historic event, very, very rare card, has the trophy signal. There's a bunch of intrinsic value in that card. When we look at the champion staff card, the intrinsic value is that it's a champion. It was only awarded to the top thing. There are only 6 in the world. It's the first ever champion stamped card in the history of Pokemon cards ever. And there are only 6 of that to exist, right? Those are intrinsic qualities. Now, what's the difference? The difference is all of the top collectors have showed the Trophy Kang as the best card always, and as one of the best cards, and we've seen it sell for very high amounts. What about the champion stamps? No one talks about them. No one knows about them. No one ever sees them sell for high amounts. No one, your SM Pratts, your TCAs, your all these types of things. SM Pratt talked about them a little bit, but he talks about them as much lower than all these other things, and as always. And my point in showing that is that yes, things have intrinsic value, but things also have these perceptions that we give them and that we decide as a hobby. Okay. And you have to be very careful, because sometimes these narratives and these things that create, they're not very solid and they actually change. So when you have someone challenge a narrative or argue something like I am, you're going to have people out there say, maybe Jake's onto something. It's part of why we've seen these go up a lot, right? You're going to see that type of stuff over time. And so you're hearing me say that that you only like something because some influencers like. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But I am saying that has played a large part in like the Pikachu Illustrator, like the cards that people view as the most valuable.
Oh, sure. They get the most publicity.
Are the ones that have gotten the most publicity, are the ones that the biggest, most famous collectors and trophy people have talked about the most and said are the best, not necessarily because they're the rarest, because they have the coolest story necessarily, or, and art is very subjective. So what art you like better, I mean, it's a very hard thing to sort of argue with, but it's very hard to separate that from these other things. So I'm just going to throw all that out.
A lot of those original trophy cards, though, I would even throw in like the computer era comics Mega Battle card in there too. Like they're just the first. They're the first ones. Like the Pika trophies, they're important because they were the first tournament 1 through 3 set. You know what I mean? Like the modern ones, like the ones like that there's only 6 given out. Yeah, but it's almost, I don't know. It's maybe it's just that there's just too many of them, and that the current ones, nobody, I don't know. Like they do these every year now. They do these every single year.
Yeah.
Every
The
world
speculation price is now built into them too much too, and it's just a lot of different factors.
Oh yeah. I don't. I grew up hearing about these original Japanese trophy cards though. And even the
You're
original
partial
Tropical
to the
Wind.
old design too, though. You got to keep in mind, like as a more OG collector, you're partial to that design opposed to like the modern day full art
I
trophy.
don't really care for the design, to be quite honest. It's not why I want them. I want them because of the historical value. I want them because I couldn't have them.
Yeah.
I want them because I heard
You
about them.
couldn't have this card either, but you didn't hear about it, which is the exact point. This card that I have is much harder to get than a trophy. You could go out and get a trophy Kangaskhan any day of the week if you have the money. This card you can't get. I ain't selling mine ever.
Right.
You know,
But
I can tell you that much for any amount of money. I mean, it would take $500,000, which is insane. You know,
back in the day, I couldn't get a trophy Kangaskhan. They didn't come up for sale ever. Like we're talking like 2001 era of eBay. Like they just nobody had them for sale. Nobody knew anyone that had any of them.
Sure.
So like you just saw it listed in Beckett Price Guide. You saw a picture of it on the internet, and you're like, Jesus Christ, I want this card, but I can't get it. I couldn't even get it if I had the money. I couldn't find one.
So if Logan Paul comes out and says, "Oh my God, I just heard about these like champion and finalists and these and different stamp promos that are rarer than any of these other cards," buys a full set and starts talking about it, and then people hear that and then they start to look for them and search for them, and they all disappear. You don't think multiple generations are not going to have that same relationship to these as you did to the Trophy Kangaskhan? They will have the exact same, which just shows my point is that I'm not telling you to change your opinion or to like something that you don't like. And Basic Trainer hear this too. You should only buy and collect what you like, okay, and what you get. But trying to understand, why do I actually like it? You know, why am I drawn to this over this? You know, and a large part of why we're drawn to something is because we heard about it. It was that status thing. Part of why I like the snap cards, because when I was a kid, I heard about them as this thing that you could never get, and there were only 20 of them. I remember that as a kid, you know. So it's these memories, and those things don't change, but new memories can be created and new feelings can be created. And in a hobby that lasts 50, 100 years, things can adapt and things can change. So, and again, we're talking about $6,000 versus $70,000. Yeah. It's a 10 times valuation. I'm not saying necessarily that they'll ever be even. You know, we're talking about value investing, and I'm really just using this as an illustration. You know, as
it's a great example.
What I look for, and I think Basic Trainer, to say that I don't invest in things that I like, right? I think that I'm actually able to look past other people's feelings and kind of weigh both the intrinsic value versus how I actually feel about it, and my subjective opinions about the good lookingness of the card. And I'm not very much concerned. Like, I love listening to experts for information, but I'm not really interested in their opinion as much as I'm interested in getting the information and then forming my opinion based on the data, if that makes sense. Like, I'm very interested in the arguments. It's the same thing in this situation. You know, ideally you're listening to these arguments and then you're kind of taking what you think is right, the understanding, and then kind of like forming your own opinion. And I think that when you do that, you can differ from the experts or the other.
When you talk about these high-end trophy cards, and you could just tell me why though, but if you were going to really go that route, have you ever just really considered doing like the super hardcore grind and just cutting out the middleman, going right to Japanese sellers, figuring out how to get your hands on some of this stuff, like doing it that way for these high-end trophy cards? Because when you think about the people who were really successful and really pumped up those cards, like that's when I talk about the manipulation of that market, it's like those were the guys that grind, you know, the ones who cracked the code for, you know, Yahoo auctions and stuff. Like now we have Google Translate and stuff, and if you want, it's not like an impossible feat for anybody to do Yahoo auctions, but for the originals, you had to pretty much crack that code, you know?
So I think that, sure, and they deserve it because they worked hard and they were in the hobby early. Like, the people who owned these cards first and found them, good for them. Like, if I was in the hobby, I would have done the exact same thing and I would be where they are right now. You know,
and you could still do that though, or it's kind of
right now. I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people more connected than me, but I mean, I try to reach out to people. I'm friends with, fairly friendly with a pretty big Japanese person that I talk to. You know, I certainly don't have access. There may be a few people who do. I really don't know the answer to that. I think that my only issue, and we talked about this before we went live, is people lying. So if you lie and you come out and you say, I don't have an impact on the market, or what I say doesn't or couldn't have an impact on the market, and you really believe that, if you say that something is rarer than it actually is,
Yeah.
if you say there aren't potential for extra copies, like with this champion stamp card, right? There could be 12, there could be 20, there could be 50. They could have printed 100 of these. They probably burned them all, but they might not have. They might be somewhere, they might surface. Who knows? Like, I can't really know any of that for sure. Extra copies can be a real thing.
But
Right?
I believe you when you say that.
Yeah. I'm giving my honest opinion. So
right.
all I want from people is, if you like a trophy card over here rather than this one, if you don't like trophy cards and you like set cards, that is absolutely reasonable, as long as I feel like you're being honest and you're not shilling and lying, and giving false reasons to artificially push up your card over some other card, if that makes sense. And you're not leaving out the negatives and the details. So, and I think that is what is actually going to help this market grow, because then there's full transparency about what these things actually are.
What do you,
yeah.
To throw a card out there, here's an example to, well, I don't have data, so I'm not going to say how many of them are there. Just what do you think of the collector Charizard card? You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah. From the Hartford event.
What do you know how many, do you have any idea about how many of those were made?
I did, but I don't remember now. I think there was a rough estimate that came out of the event.
So like Pratt says that card's not a legitimate card because anyone can get a stamper and stamp the word collector on it on any card. And I've never heard anyone claim that before, but I that card hits for me. Like, I love that card. I bought a couple of them. I think that's an example of a modern English card that.
So the story of that card is so I don't know the exact details. I don't think the exact details were ever shared to my knowledge, but the basic understanding that I have is that there was some sort of goof up where it was supposed to be a legitimate sanctioned Pokemon card. And then somehow along the way, Pokemon said, nope, like, this thing exists, but it's not a real Pokemon card. And because the Pokemon company doesn't acknowledge it as legitimate, it can't be graded. And it's not a real legitimate Pokemon card. And that's the reason why, because the Pokemon company won't say it's real. And the now if it were, that card would be worth a fortune. I think that would be like a $10,000 card probably in high grade.
But CGC won't grade it.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if I was looking up to see if there was any.
It's not a Pokemon card.
Yeah.
It's not officially. That's my understanding. Is it is not officially sanctioned. It's not a real card. It's like a fake card. That's what they, But it's this weird sort of thing, and some of the stories I heard, and maybe Rusty will watch this or something, because he I'm sure knows the actual story or the other people involved in that event. But my understanding was something like, it was supposed to be real, it was sanctioned, and then there was some sort of like last minute something.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I still like the card regardless. Like, that's the type of card where it's like, if nothing ever happens with it monetarily, I don't care. I know it's rare and I like it. Like, you know what I mean? Another, like, pre-release Raichu is a great example.
Yeah. I love that pre-release Raichu.
Let's talk about pre-release Raichu. I've actually seen pre-release Raichu, a couple of them in person.
Yeah. How many are there? Do you know?
I do not know. Well, see, I know how many I thought there were.
There's only one real one, though. Only the David Person one is the only real one.
Yeah, David Person.
I heard there were 12. I don't know. That was what I heard from Dark Master Trainer Mike Bowser, who used to run organized play for Wizards. He had a copy in his binder. I saw it at Worlds 04 or 03, one of those. And I talked to him a little bit about it, and he said 12. He said almost all the guys at Wizards had a copy.
Did he tell you the backstory to it?
Yeah, that they accidentally made their way into the printer on a
Wait,
jungle.
was it accidental or were they doing it on purpose?
I heard it was accidental. I heard it was accidental. That they made their way in on a sheet that should have been Jungle Cliff Fables. There's also pre-release Clefable with a different ink print stamp too. So there's there's a green print, a
Yeah,
green, and then there's a red one too.
yeah, there's the two. I'm familiar with both of them. Do
Um,
you think there'll ever be a 10 for pre-release Clefable?
um, I have one that might be close. It's a 9 for sure. I have
Yeah.
two. And they're both very minty. But I mean, I can never just centering is one of the things I always get wrong when I'm looking at cards. Like I always like, oh, it looks good, and then fucking 9 on center somehow. I don't know. So I don't know, but I have two that I'm waiting to send in. I have a lot of stuff that I don't want to get graded because in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, it could be a 10, you know what I mean? Like, but then
So Joe, here's my question with that, right? But there were no sheets of Raichus though, you know? That was a set card.
yeah, it made it
It
made it
wasn't a
in, it made it into the, it was in the same print run for some reason. I don't know why. That's what I was told.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you don't have one card on a sheet unless it is a promo. Does that make sense? Like you would have had a pre-release for every single card. Because like imagine what a sheet looks like, right? Like
Well,
for promo cards, there's all the same card on a sheet, but for non-promo cards, there's all the set cards, especially for the hollows.
yeah, I don't know then. I don't
So
know.
I don't understand how that Raichu would have its own sheet. That's the only thing that
It
I
did
never.
have its own sheet. It was like it was half that sheet, half into a Clefable sheet.
Well, what? So that must have been, yeah. How did that happen?
I don't know. That's what I heard. It was half. It
Okay.
was it was supposed to be a Clefable sheet, and half, like not half, maybe a quarter of it was Raichus at the top for some reason, and the sheet ran through.
Do you know anyone that has uncut Clefable sheets?
No, I know a couple people that have a lot of uncut sheets, but I don't know anyone that has uncut Clefable sheets.
Yeah. I mean,
I have,
the only person who I would potentially think would have one would be Rusty, but I'm sure we would know if he actually had that sheet.
I know, I might be able to ask. So I know a lot of people that still know a lot of people at Wizards, and I could ask about the Clefable sheets. I've never asked, so I don't know.
I've just never heard of it. I was just curious.
If it was anyone, I would imagine it would be some of the guys from Wizards still.
Can we see some square cut Clefables hit the PSA?
That
mark?
would be sick. I love square cut cards. I'd love to see some square cut Clefables.
Yeah.
That would be sick.
Yeah, I think like collecting a complete pre-release set is a fun binder.
Oh yeah.
For people out there, you know.
It is. Yeah,
It's
definitely fun.
Definitely a far more expensive binder now than it used to be. You know, you're not getting the Raichu, but the rest you could still get.
True. Yeah.
But it's still reasonably affordable given, you know, I mean, depending on your budget.
I like staff cards too.
Yeah, staff are cool.
Staff are fun.
Yeah, staff.
I think stamped cards are fun, like getting a set card and then having kind of like a cool stamp on it to make it rarer, particularly if you like the art itself. I think it's enjoyable. I like and a lot of those cards have done really well. Oh my gosh, like the some of those like middle era like evolution ones that have like the national, you know, some sort of stamp on it from some sort of tournament. Those were really fun this year. Discovered.
I have 4 of the national championship Charizards in 9s.
Yeah, that's a good example.
I sold a couple this year too. I sold like 3 or 4 of them.
From EX Dragon, right? You're talking about?
Yeah, that was
the EX Dragon art.
Yeah. Right. That was, I wish to God they made a staff one that year, but they didn't. That would have been sick.
That's a really cool card in art, I think. Although I think we were having a debate. Mason was on here. We were having a debate at some point where like some people really didn't like that card. Mason might like it. Yeah.
Now that champions, the Charizard from EX Dragon, there is the ones that have, is it a winner stamp on it too? There's not just the national champions one. I think there's one, there's two different types of promos for that EX Dragon Charizard, I think.
There is.
I could be making that up. Maybe I'm making that up, but I'm pretty sure there's two different promos with stamps on it for that EX Dragons Charizard.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, that's a look up.
Yeah.
Because there's also the Stormfront. Oh wait, am I confusing things? Didn't they?
Oh, the Stormfront one has a staff
like
promo, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's the Stormfront, and then they also do it on the Charmander and the Charmeleon too, right?
Yeah, they do.
And sometimes I confuse. Those can be confused in my head.
Jake. I always forget more than I'll ever know. So
yeah, I'm not like super into yeah, it's hard to keep all that information in your head while you're also keeping like the price and population data. So sometimes my mind goes very much to like things that affect the market I need to remember. And like little random pieces of trivia like that that like have no impact on my buying. Just kind of like slide out. It's like, well, I heard that once. I think I knew that once, but
yeah. So here's the this was also from EX Dragons. They did them that year. This is the Charmander and the Charmeleon.
Yeah, those are the secret rares. That's
secret rares. But
so
this
it's
is
like number 100, 101, and 100, 101, and then the Charizard's 102 or is
98 through 100.
Oh, 98. Okay, yeah.
But they did them city states nationals, and then they did the Blastoise the next year. They did the Blastoise from
But the EX Dragon doesn't have a winner. Did you look it up?
It does not have a winner now.
Okay, that's because I haven't seen that. I don't think, but well, evidently, yeah. But there's so many things though. It's easy to mix them up.
But that stuff's neat to like you were saying, to bind her up all of those. There's a lot of interesting stamped promos that they did. They did the Gen Con ones. They did the Inquest magazine stamped promos. There's a lot of really weird early Nintendo promos that make fun binders to do too.
Yeah, and this is stuff that it's like people see it, but they don't know what it is, so they have a hard time buying it. So it's one of these. There are these areas still of the hobby that are not quite totally exposed yet. But it's only a matter of time till every single thing gets brought out. This year, it's an amazing, like the learning curve and how much, I have friends who are just super hardcore in this and have been in it for like a year. And like, they're so like, they know so much about everything. It's, just being 1 year, just super engaged.
I don't know how you could do that though.
There's a lot to learn.
A lot of free time, must add. I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't work a 9 to 5, that's for sure.
You just don't sleep like me. No. Please sleep. Don't follow my bad.
I'm getting so much shit from my fiance for doing this right now.
Well,
she's like, you're such a hypocrite. The stuff you will and won't do on a work night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of which, guys, I had a blast on this stream, but I do have to get up for work tomorrow. But
we didn't even take a question, not a single question.
All right. I'll stay for 15 more minutes.
All right. Let's take some questions on that note. All right. Guys, if you want to take a look at the chat and pick out any questions, even from the beginning or the whole way that sound interesting, guys, if you have questions, feel free to throw it down there at the bottom. But we'll have to do this again. This was a blast.
Yeah, so. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. I am really happy that Joe came in too, because
it was a lot of fun. Yeah, same.
Yeah, now that I'm not doing the Pocket Change podcast anymore, which a lot of people have asked about, and I'm still very good friends with both of those guys, and it has to do with just kind of personal business stuff that it's extremely amicable. It's just places that maybe they work for and things like that. So that they just don't want to talk about cards so publicly. So because I just keep getting asked that question over and over again. But now that I'm not doing that, I do think that, hosting, a weekly or bi-monthly thing where I just kind of like bring different people on, a bunch of regulars on, is something that I think would be fun to sort of start in the new year.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing. It's so much fun to talk to people. We got one question I see in the chat from Andrew. Said, any you collect no rarity? Andrew, I have some, but I'm not a big Japanese collector, so I don't say out loud that I collect anything Japanese, even though I have a bunch of it.
I collect no rarity in the sense that I have a no rarity set. I have the set completed. I completed it a long time ago. It's in a binder. I don't want any more of it, but I have it for completist sake. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do not have even one full complete set. I probably have half the cards, maybe something like that. So I don't have any of the Charizard.
If I had the Charizard, I would have sold it. So there's the.
I do have a couple of the high graded ones of my favorite, because they're like my favorite Pokemon from base set.
That's cool.
So that's
just like I really like fourth print. It's not really fourth print, but you know what I mean. 99 2000. I like that. I like that stuff.
Do you believe that it was just like a UK/Australian release, or do you think that's kind of just was blown out of proportion?
That's blown out of proportion.
Yeah,
there are.
I think the same thing. But you do.
I am not a base set expert. That's like one area where it's just was like I feel like I know it enough, and I'm I remember reading these things on E4, these like long debates about like all the different variations and the different stamps and the different thin, thick, ghost, and then like the different print runs, and well, there's this guy in Poland who has all of it, so maybe it was from here and maybe it's from there, and trying to track, and it's just like, okay, like whoa.
You know who is old school Pokemon knows that stuff really well.
Yeah. I had old school Pokemon on my channel. Nick is a great dude, man.
Yeah. He loves base set.
And all the errors, like all the print out. Like I had a friend ask me recently about like a print out error on the Charizard. How rare was it? And I was like, no freaking idea. You got to ask TCA Gaming. One of these guys who just like they eat, breathe, and sleep just like all the variations. Not me.
Well, here's a good question for you guys. What's your favorite error card? I know you don't like error cards that much, Jake, but if you had to pick one, what's your favorite error card?
I don't know. I just don't have one. It's just I'd be lying if I said, oh, how about the what's it called? The Hitmonchan cigar. No, wait, which one's the cigar error? Is that the cigar error?
I don't even know that one, and I don't even know that one.
It's you're thinking the Hitmonlee from
Hitmonlee.
Okay.
Hitmonlee from Fossil, yeah. So I didn't even know. So obviously it's not my favorite error. I didn't even know what it freaking was. But yeah, I just don't care. I don't care about error cards.
My favorite error card. I don't know. You answer yours, Joe. I gotta think about this.
Mine is the non-hollow dark Dragonite from Team Rocket with the holographic
why? Just
number
because it put the wrong set number on the bottom.
Because I when I was a kid I learned about it, and I opened so many freaking Team Rocket packs in order to get one of those cards.
What is he, number 5 in the set? Is that the number?
Yeah. So there's a non-hollow with number 5, and there's a first edition and an unlimited version with that numbering too.
Yeah.
That's my personal favorite.
That's a funny one. I don't know, man. I'm boring. I want to say something stupid like a $30,000 length Bulbasaur, but only this group will get that joke.
So Blitz Foray in the chat just said TV Reporter, and this is funny. I was going to mention TV Reporter. No, Reverse Hollow TV Reporter is not an error card. Reverse Hollow TV Reporter from EX Dragons, was just not printed in America. It was printed in fourth print in the UK only.
I love that card. I've talked about it a couple times now, just on my channel.
So I. Yep. I like
There's
it because
a
when
guy,
it was,
Australian Blastoise. I don't know if you've ever seen him in the chats. He has a PSA 8 of it.
nice. I have
Yeah.
about 6 of them I haven't graded, but, I
Nice.
have them
If you want
because,
to sell one, let me know.
well, here's the thing. When I played the game, everyone played TV Reporter. I wanted a reverse hollow set just for my deck, just so I could have 4 copies of it. And I
Yeah.
just remember I bought them at the time for like 25 bucks a piece on eBay or something.
If you have
Um,
6 of them, I think the total graded population is, it used to be 10, maybe it's a little more now, but it's still, I think it's less than 20. So
probably,
you might have like, I don't
but
know, a quarter of the entire graded population like sitting at your house.
I'm not incentivized to grade them because nobody knows about them.
I would
Like,
say that people know about the reverse hollow TV reporter because it's like the one thing I want to say it was Scott Pratt was the one that, like, you know how he would write up things for like PSA and stuff. They would interview him about sets.
yeah,
I want to say he like wrote about that in one of the
did he?
PSA like set registry description things.
Huh,
I
I didn't know
remember
that.
that.
Interesting.
I learned about it from DJ Gigabyte.
Cool
Yeah,
guy.
that's a
I
niche one.
Yeah, I remember watching a video he made on that, and there were some other kind of not necessarily errors, but just sort of these obscure sort of like um
Deep down
card
the rabbit holes.
promos that were
Right.
printed in certain areas of the world. So Basic Trainer says, "Hey guys, I would like to see you guys make an argument for 99% of Pokemon collectibles, vintage slabs, and sealed product not being as valuable as they are today in 10 to 20 years."
99 is too high of a percentage. I couldn't
So, I
do
mean,
it.
my argument would just be what would happen is this would be a fad of sorts. New generations wouldn't come in. It would die out. You'd have less and less people our age interested in it. There's already a lot of supply out there. If the interest in it gets much smaller, there's going to be a surplus of all of these WotC cards and all of the supply. The only stuff that will still be rare are the trophies, or that there won't be too much of. But even then, if it really shrinks, so I mean that's how it would go down. It would be a demand thing. The demand would go down, and it's definitely possible. It's just where else is it gonna go? Maybe there are different collectibles or new collectibles, NFTs. So we'll see. But that's why it would have to be a demand. So something would have to take people's attention. People would have to move on to the next thing. That's how all pop culture collectibles in the past that have died. It's just people move on, and people start to die, who are interested in it. So it's a combination of new people don't get into it and people die who are into it.
Hey, Jake and Echo, I gotta go, guys. I wish I didn't have work in the morning, but if you guys are ever up for doing this again, let me know. And to everybody in the chat,
Sure.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll do a quick shameless plug. Poking Knowledge Cards on YouTube. If you guys want to check out my channel, I greatly appreciate it. All right, guys.
After we finish this, I will put both of your channels in the description.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Above my own shilling links.
All right. Good night, guys.
Night, man. Nice talking to you.
Later.
Later.
You want to take a few more questions, or do you want to call it? What are you feeling?
We could take a couple more. Pick a couple more.
Okay.
And we could take a couple more. Sure.
All right. You want to go to like another 18 minutes I have to 12:05 here?
That works.
All right. And then we're going to get caught up in answering, and we're going to keep going, but we will try to actually cut it to that. Let's see. Gonna go to the middle.
Actually, I did hear while you're looking. There was a staff card that's the one that snuck its way into was it Chilling Reigns? So Pokemon Company stopped making staff cards for the events, but they found was it an Inteleon, I think, one of the pre-release set promos of the 4 had a staff version that snuck its way in, that snuck its way onto the internet. I've been trying to find it, but I haven't. I tried to find it for a couple weeks and nobody put one up for sale. But that's a card I'd like to have.
Makai Gaming says, my son is a new collector as of this year. What do you recommend for new collectors who want to collect, but don't just want to get caught up in the hype? And I guess with that kind of maybe overpay for things. You know, what as a kid do you think is going to give a kid sort of the best overall experience? Where should they start?
I think that they should start by going on a site like PokeBeach and looking at the sets that are out there and really looking at which Pokemon are their favorites and waiting to go to a place like Target or Walmart and wait until they can find those packs on the shelf for MSRP. And then just people seem to think that the 3-pack blisters, for whatever reason, I don't know, the pull rate data on the 3-pack blisters is better than regular hanging boosters.
Conspiracy theory. I don't really know.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of people say that. I don't know how that's possible, but if you want to do that, if he has access to the internet, or if you want to do that for him, there's a lot of good groups on Facebook. Just type in Pokemon under group Pokemon collectors. There's a lot of people that run claim sales on modern hit cards that you can get well below TCG player. So he could, if you want to like help him and find some people to do claim sales and sit there and look at them with him, kind of do it together as parent son, you might be able to get better deals that way for him to maybe find certain individual cards that he wants. That might be a good way to get cards in bulk, like to get caught up as a collector. There's a lot of these people posting like V cards, V maxes for like $1 a piece. You can buy bulk if you want to get him. If you want to go on eBay, there's people that always sell common, uncommon sets. You can get a full common, uncommon, rare set of like Chilling Reigns or like Battle Styles for like 40, $50. And that gives you most of the set. And that'll give him a good, like you could binder that up and then he can just, collect, buy a pack here and there and fill in his set as he wants to. That would be pretty good value.
Yeah, I think I would ask him sort of, what does he want to open stuff, or does he just want to have like as much cards as possible? Because if he wants to open, he's going to have to spend like a little bit more money, or you're going to have to spend a little bit more money on his or her behalf. I think that for me, like, and when I hear this question, I think maybe, okay, I have $200, maybe like a really awesome, amazing $200 Christmas present or something that I want to like buy my son or daughter. Like, what am I going to put in that? And I think I'd buy a Chilling Reigns booster box for as cheap as I could find it, under $80 for that. I think I'd buy maybe like I'd look for some sort of like WotC collection, like some sort of big cheap auction, for $40 or $50 that had a cool combination of like a bunch of common, uncommon, rares and some hollows in there. Something like that would be fun. And then maybe I pick up some really cheap graded cards, like a few cheap graded cards, sub $15 cards, maybe a few of those amazing rares, a few baby shinies, maybe a rainbow rare, a secret rare, a gold card, some combination. And I think all that together would equal about $200 you could do it for. And I think that would introduce them to graded cards to see if they, really cool to have graded cards. You'd have some of that original sort of base set jungle fossil, maybe some Neos in there, some, get them kind of involved there in some of the old stuff to see how they feel about that. You can say, oh my God, these cards are, they're, so old. And like, these are the cards I collected as I was a kid, and share that. And then you have one of the cheapest sort of modern booster box to have that opening experience to see how much fun he has or she has with that. That's what I would do for around that $200 point.
Don't forget the most important point, and that's you have to get him a Charizard. just to indoctrinate him into the Charizard market early. Like,
yeah. So, what I would avoid is online pack openers. I would avoid certain online auction, like live auction type stuff for the most part. If you're not very experienced and you don't really know what prices should be, I would focus more on like lowest listed on eBay, of these types of things. You have to go definitely check like sold listings on eBay to see what things have been selling for. Make sure that you're paying like around what other people are paying. Like that's how I would start.
Yeah.
And I, would not go for, the latest, uh,
Right.
shiny set for Japan, whatever that
Right.
happens. I mean, right now, we have one of those, but also if it's in the few months, I think now's a really great time, to be starting a collection. It's an affordable time, and there's plenty of people, plenty of opportunity.
Yeah. If he's doing that now, he has a leg up on if he would have done this a year ago for sure. I went in Target over the last 2 weeks for the first time in my area in a year and a half and actually saw product on the shelf. Like actually could buy whatever modern set I wanted. I know I've been yet to actually see anything in about a year. So that was kind of cool.
Hisoka says, I love how other influencers say, he says, cough, WhatsApp, and Rev, and says, I love how other influencers say it's not about the money, but then charge people twice market value for the box breaks. Yeah. I mean, that, if people are really doing that and pretending that they're not a business that's trying to make money when they are one, to, like pretending that I'm your friend and I'm giving you some sort of like friend deal. I don't know if who's doing that or if any of them are doing that, but if that type of thing is going on, that sucks, right? I mean, that is deceitful. You should be very clear that like you're making, and very obvious that like this is an entertainment business and he's being paid extra so that you get your name called out there so that you're on the stream and you get to open it with a bunch of people and you're paying for that experience. And that should be made obvious. So
Here's a question I'm actually curious about to get your opinion too.
Sure.
Ernest Alvarez says, I got a question. What do you guys think about vintage jumbo cards like the Koro stuff and the Mewtwo movie promos? So do you dabble in the jumbo cards at all?
I don't. I don't. There's just so much that I don't do that. Gosh, it's interesting. I think that the box toppers, like this, like Sky Ridge, Legendary Collection, like if I were to go, that's where I would start. The stuff that actually comes from those booster boxes because they're gorgeous, they're really cool. Those are really nice. There's some like trophy cardish type jumbo cards of different trophy cards and some very rare stuff that is kind of cool. But I think my hesitance has always been like, what the hell do I do with this thing?
Right.
And like, how do I keep it from not getting damaged? And I guess you can send them into PSA, or maybe other grading companies too at this point and get them graded and encapsulated and protected. I'm open to anything. I guess I just feel like there's so many cards. Why do I need jumbo cards? Is it because I guess the argument would be like it's bigger, so it's even better because you actually can see it, or it's an even better display piece on the wall type of thing. Like I guess I can understand that. I think I like putting a lot of the cards together. Instead of putting a lot, I could just put like, if I had like a framed of just those, like all the different Legendary Collection or Sky Ridge and then some of the box toppers from like, different eras, that would be cool to put that in like a framed piece. That appeals to me. I'm just not sure it's ever going to have the same market because it's just not this. Like we like things that are small or that sort of same size. We're stupid,
Uniformity.
We're dumb creatures, and it is what it is.
Yeah, the thing about the jumbo cards that always hit me different than the regular cards is, I mean, let's bring it back to basics, guys. You can't play them. They're not trading cards. You can't deck them. You can't sleeve them. So, I mean, they are awesome. And I would say my two favorite is probably the Crystal Ho-Ho and then the Legendary Collection Charizard. Those two are really pretty. I also really like the Japanese Legendary Bird Trio. That one's really pretty too.
Yeah.
I like them, and then they had the remember when Nintendo did they did the winter stamped version of the jumbo cards too. So those are out there too. There's a lot out there. Like if you want to do them, guys, I mean, there's enough out there to do a collection of them. And they're pretty cheap. They're pretty cheap relatively. So you might get in on something there because I know those winter ones there was not very many of those made. Not the jumbo ones anyway.
Let's see. Tommy Fogel says, Jake, you mentioned live auctions. What's your overall thoughts like about whatnot, like or in app specifically whatnot we can talk about, but also just things like whatnot or potential things in the future, because we're going to see more of that for sure, these types of things.
I've been trying to get in on whatnot. I know old
Yeah.
school does it. I've been curious about it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the idea. So I like live auctions because you get to talk about the cards. It's
Yeah.
like your own little auctioneer. Like you get to give, like you can put up a card, talk about the history of it.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. I think it's fun. Um I am I don't I people tend to overpay on whatnot, I would say. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But they do. I don't know what else he wants to know about that other than that. Like, what's the question geared more towards? Like, is it gonna be like the new norm? Like, I don't know.
I think it's like, so like what I would say is I've seen certainly some scummy, what I would consider fairly scummy behavior on whatnot in terms of like sales tactics, like berating audience members for not buying things, like
Oh, wow.
saying you'll end the stream unless someone buys this or pays this much, like things like that I've seen people say. So again, if you go to old school, it's going to be great because Nick is a fucking wonderful guy and
True.
isn't going to take advantage of you, and it's going to be a great experience. So the platform and the concept is great, but there might, now who they allow on it or their oversight of certain people, what they allow, what they don't allow, these are conversations I imagine they have behind the scenes to figure out what type of hands-on role they're going to have. It's a tough thing to write policy to crack down on, like what is fair salesman tactics and what is predatory. I don't think that's an easy thing to answer. And you also have these huge streaming platforms that like they have multiple people selling the same, like on whatnot, obviously, but you'll have like different channels who have lots of different, some people are going to hard sell on a specific channel. Some people don't. And everyone sort of has their own comfort level. Some people are going to be like, it's a free market. It's only chumps get pushed around, this type of attitude. For me, it's like, nah, like I'm always like, call out scumbags. Don't let them get away with it just because someone's, fallen for it doesn't mean that it's ethical or okay, or we shouldn't talk about it. So that's where I'm at with that. But again, how is whatnot going to police that? What does that look like over time? I think an interesting question would be like, does a platform like that attract or create an environment where that sort of poor behavior can happen? This is such an ongoing debate everywhere, right? Because it's like on YouTube too, it's like, should we ban channels that are, spreading misinformation, whether that be on the political right or the political left, wherever it is, or should, how do we control misinformation? How do we control people taking advantage of each other? Should we control that? And do you trust the person controlling it? Which is always where it goes down to of like, well, I don't trust YouTube to control it because YouTube has their own bias, or I don't trust whatnot to control it because they have their, it becomes a problem.
I hate to do this, but I really have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, go for it. Absolutely.
It's been like 4 hours. I'll be right back.
Please do. Yeah. So with that, I think the best thing always is educating people. When you educate people and you have a smart, free thinking, populace, or in this case, Pokemon community, then you don't need to sort of police the auctioneers. You'll just have people stop buying from them, you see? So that to me works a lot better than shutting down people and then having them be angry with you and claim that it's unfair, and then having the people who watch them be angry and claim it's unfair, rather than helping to teach or educate the people who are watching to see that like this isn't good for you. If that makes sense. So that's how I think it's just more effective way of handling these types of things. So that being said, the negative parts, like the positive parts of Whatnot, are certainly there. Like it's you know, and as Echo said, it's a wonderful platform, an idea to have someone like Echo or Old School or people that you know have personalities too, kind of get up there and perform a little bit, have fun with people, and sell stuff in a cool kind of environment like that. I think that it makes perfect sense to have these live auctions now online in this sort of like social media online digital age. It makes perfect sense.
Facebook does it too, to an extent too. Like you can do lives on Facebook. I've seen that a lot lately too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any others?
Yeah, we could do a couple more here. The old card shop says Whatnot recently just changed some of its policy on certain aspects of it as well. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely not like a super up on Whatnot, so I couldn't speak to like, is Whatnot doing a good job of addressing these issues or not?
Yeah.
I really have no idea.
Yeah, I've only participated in a few auctions live on Whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know there's tons of people that do it every day.
Yeah,
So
I mean, people who are like really honest sellers who are really entertaining, having a great time, like we should go jump on there and support them. You know,
yeah,
it's phenomenal, and buying from them. You know, I mean, one, like I try to buy from people like Nick and people that I really like and that I know are super caring and don't gouge people and are not trying to maximize profit at the expense of like, you know, creating good experience for people and being honest with people. So I think I try to support those people with my money.
so Andrew James asked a question, and then also Think FWD. You might be better off answering the one from Think FWD. But for Andrew, real fast, I can answer you real fast for VMAX Climax. Why are the singles so cheap? The singles are so cheap because it's a special box, and they're 10 pack. They're 10 cards per pack instead of the usual 5. And the character rares are the insertion rate on the character rares is a lot higher than your normal chase cards would be in a Japanese box. So I think you get how they're slotted in the box. I think don't quote me, but I believe it's anywhere from 5 to 10 character rares per box. So in the inherent price of the box being $40 or $50, you could see how the character rares would not be all that, all that expensive if just singled out. That's probably why it's not so much that it's overprinted, it's that it's the insertion rate for the different cards is just different than a normal Japanese set. There's more different types of chase cards in VMAX Climax.
So my thoughts on Japanese player ceremony cards. I don't have too many thoughts on them. I don't know how many there are of each. I don't know if anyone knows. I believe they were awarded based on the number of points that people won. And so I don't know if we can know like how many people did that. I really don't. I'd have to like look it up. But they're cool cards. I imagine they're fairly rare. I also think with like COVID and other sorts of things, we're gonna see certain cards like this probably have like lower amounts than maybe were, you know, awarded for tournaments and these types of things. So I don't know. Have you heard of them before? They're pretty niche.
I have not heard of those before.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You know, honestly, I don't know too much about them. You probably know a decent amount of them. Think FWD if you're asking the question. I don't think I've ever been asked about those before, so they're pretty niche.
And I think you could, if you wanted to, maybe put a post on E4, you might get some more info out of that one.
Yeah, they're cool though. They're really cool.
They are cool. I don't know the awarded rate or the print rate of them or anything like that.
Yeah.
They are neat looking.
Yeah, so sorry. People talking about some of the stuff they've seen on Whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely need to do some more with that for
Yeah,
points.
I mean, a certain online YouTube seller that I really hated for a long time used to do the same thing where if you told people like, hey, this is cheaper on eBay right now, or you tried to help people in the chat or say that you're overbidding or please be careful, this person's pushing you, they would ban you. So I heard
Oh,
that's happening
wow.
and whatnot, that people are
Oh,
banning
wow.
the people on
That's
this YouTube guy used to ban people who would say those things immediately. And just get a chorus of people who were like, "You're these prices are amazing, like you're great, whatever." And I heard that, that type of stuff. I think that again, it's all within reason, right? Like if you're on there and people are paying like $3 over price, $5 over price, and you're sitting there spending your night like taking
sure.
money out of this seller's hands because he's getting $5, $10 above market on certain things, like that I would be on the side of the seller and I'd be like, it's not your job or your responsibility to police like
Absolutely.
every little thing. And the truth is like there is no actual market price.
Right.
Like these things sell for different amounts everywhere, depending on, but there should be a range, right? And so if you're within a 10 to 20% range, fine. If you're selling something for double or triple and you're lying to your audience and people are calling you out for it, or you're just making shit up, then I'm 100% on the people who are trying to
100%
hide that.
agree.
So that's
Because
where I would say,
I've
yeah.
seen Facebook auctions where people will do like, I'm selling this card for 120 and people are like, oh, that's way overpriced. It's $20 cheaper on eBay. And we're like, all right, guys, it's $20 here. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't like it, move on.
Yeah. And he's
Like,
allowed to sell it for above. Like
right.
he can post it for whatever he wants. That's also different than like, I'm gonna shut down the stream unless someone buys this at this higher amount. Or
True.
like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys are like, or you guys are just cheap and you don't have any money and you don't care about me. Or like playing any sort of like weird emotional cards that I've seen
Old,
certain people play.
Old
Like
School told a funny story where he had up a celebrations, I don't know, say it was a celebrations, no, it was a graded 9 Champions Path Charizard promo. And
yeah.
and then he was like, well, for fun, whoever wins this promo, I'm going to throw in this pack, whatever comes in this pack of celebrations. I'm going to open it live on camera and you get whatever's in here. And they open the Charizard. He's like, my Charizard V ended up selling for like $75 because it included this. But that's like a neat thing you can do with whatnot that you can't do anywhere else. You're like, all right, guys, we're going to spice this up. And if you win this, I'm going to throw this in with it. Like,
I think where it gets scummy and predatory is how much more are you now making? So it's like, right. I mean, that's the issue with raffles and the whole conversation around like raffles or, these mystery packs or whatever. It's like, you'll make more on those. You upcharge on those because now you've added this like gambling game element that makes it more fun. Okay.
true.
So in my mind, it is borderline predatory, particularly if you are making like a significant amount on that. And to me, it's like if you're making a tiny bit, and these are just my opinions, right? If you're making a tiny bit, because you have to put an effort to set up the game, it takes a little bit more time. It takes a little bit of work and creativity to run the game. And if you're charging like 10% or something to run the game extra for people to gamble and have a good time, I don't have an issue with you. But again, this certain YouTuber that I could not stand, but there's a lot of these things that I see out there where if you actually sit down and do the math, they're making double or triple what they would if they were to just sell the thing outright, because they're selling like 40 tickets and if you add up all the tickets, it's like $1,000 and the card's
Oh,
worth
wow.
and the card's worth like $250,
Oh,
like these
yeah.
types of predatory things, like you're a dick. I mean, you're a scammy dick. Like, where it's late enough at night.
Sure.
I mean that I just feel like there's no way around that for me. What do you think about all those raffles and these games?
I've only ever participated in one
Yeah.
for fun. I see them a lot on Facebook. There's actually raffle groups. Yeah, I oh, my cat's in here. He's usually not allowed in here. I always call into question the legitimacy of the actual raffle itself too. I will say it's pretty neat when they throw up like a vintage pack and you get like a $5 entry into a possibility of getting like a, I don't know, like a $300 pack. I think that's kind of neat. Um, I I I don't see I really don't see anything. I mean, if gambling is legal in the country, I don't see anything potentially wrong with it. I mean, depending on how bad. I mean, I think there should be some regulations thrown around it. I really do. But
I mean, casinos are pretty rough. Like the fact that they like don't have windows and they have
no
lights going on
clocks.
and no clocks, like that is fucking predatory. Like
It's true. Yeah.
like as a therapist who works with like gambling addiction and all sorts of addictions, like there's a bunch of things that they do that are like, yikes, you know. But
Yeah.
I will say the percentage that the casino tends to make to me is very reasonable, actually. To me, the
Yeah.
yikes stuff is like the way they keep you in there. And yeah, but and then the free comps and the trying to get you to stay and getting you and trying to rope you in because they know the longer they can keep you, you know, out there, you're eventually going to lose that 5% to 10% or 2% depending on the game to them. It's quite the business. It's quite the business model.
It's true. Yeah.
So what you have to do in my mind, right? If you are making money off of someone in that sort of way, you have to be providing, for me, ethically, some sort of service that's worthy of that 5 to 10% that you're making. So they wouldn't be able to gamble or have a game or do any of those sorts of things if that casino didn't exist, if you didn't pay the lights and the heating and the overhead and the, you know,
True.
and so it's like, it makes you go there for fun and entertainment. And most people treat it that way. And most people lose like less or about what they would if they like went to eat dinner or gone to the movies or whatever. You know what I mean?
Good example. I took my family to play Top Golf. We dropped, I don't know, $180 at Top Golf.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that and going to the casino for the night? Like,
yeah.
Like
as long as you're fun, you know, but then it becomes like, are you having fun or are you trapped and are they making you addicted? You know what I mean? Like, and are they pressuring you to stay or on whatnot? Are they like pressuring you and calling you like a pansy if you don't buy, like whatever, you know, like, it's like, is this fun anymore? Or is this a living nightmare that I like can't get out of? You know,
True.
Which is not a risk at the movie theater, you know, or the golf, you know, there isn't. It doesn't come with that same risk. And I think that's that difference of, you know, is your entertainment fun and enjoyable and positive, or is your entertainment a problem, you know? And to me, the seller has the responsibility to create a healthy environment for your clients. And part of that, and this is another big conversation and debate, but about like, should you cut people off? Should you ask
like a bartender does?
Yeah. Should you ask your clients, like, if you see someone buying a lot, and maybe making some comments about like, oh, I probably shouldn't buy, or, you know, oh, I can't stop buying, you know, is that your ethical responsibility to, you know, ban them from it or, you know, exit, even though it hurts your bottom line, right? Like these types of difficult conversations, you know?
Well, I think I've reached my limit for the night. I have work as well in the morning and
I do as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much, man.
Dude, it's awesome. It's always fun. Yeah, no problem.
It's blast. And yeah, I think I'm going to try to do these, you know, decently regularly. And I would love for you to be a recurring sort of guest if you're up for it.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, dude.
Yep.
Thank you all so much for watching and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Go subscribe to this man. He deserves much more support and love and all that sort of stuff. So please do me and him a favor and go do that if you can. And any last word or anything tonight?
No. I did want to. So one thing I wanted to talk about that we're not going to have time. So I did want to get into PWCC, but maybe another night. But no. Yeah, no, it's fun. It's always fun. Thank you again for having me on. Absolutely.
And you guys can support me by subscribing, liking, following my, you know, Patreon, you know, $10 a month, which working hard to pack as much value to that $10 as I possibly can.
I will second that. It is definitely worth it. I subscribe to Jake's Patreon. It is fantastic information. It is loads of entertainment every month. Him and Dan do a fantastic job. It's awesome. Some of the number crunching must take them a very long time.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And then, if you want to just watch this channel, subscribe, and if you can, if you get value, you can click my affiliate link for, eBay affiliate link below. If you're making purchases there, I'll get I think it's 1 to 4% or something. And that comes out of eBay. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. eBay pays that to creators. So that's another way to support. So that's it for me. Thank you again. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all again soon.